Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to a balmy night here at Spaced Out Radio headquarters. My name is Dave Scott, and in a few minutes, Lorien Fenton is going to join us, where we get into all things weird, strange, supernatural, and paranormal. Super soldiers and UFOs. That's what we're talking about tonight. Good to have you here. Dirty Filth will be along in a little bit as well when his computer starts or stops updating. But the best part about tonight is we have all of you here. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a nice bronze medal tonight. Hi, Deidre, Robert Lamont, Sandra Kincaid, Brown Dwarf, Kitty Caddywhack, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Karen in the Woo Train, and Paramarv. Good to see you both. Hi, Cosmic Joe, Eternity Eternal. Lee the Bee is back. Lee the Bee will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Tim in the backwoods. Still don't know how you got home so fast. He was at my house earlier. Les Paul Holland. Good to have you here. Melvin from Mars. Deanna Ann. How are you? Stargazer. Good to see you. Number 56 in your program, starting on defense tonight from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. Flat 6. Good to see you. W. Dicker. Area 53. Nice to have you here. Brian Drummond, been a while. Good to see you again. Just another guy named Harry. Where have you been hiding? Where have you been hiding? Heidi Pop, how are you? Yeah, Heidi Pop is here. Give us a wave, Heidi. We always wave back. Amy, what's happening? How you doing? Pam Harris, Phil the Stalker. Good to see you both. Hi, Lisa Smith. Human Carl is here. A great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you, Human Carl, for your great service. We love you around here. We really do. All right, continuing on. There's Michael Fontaine in Operation Shutdown. Good to see you both. Vanessa, thank you for coming on in. W. David Page, good to see you. Ozzy, Necessary Dialogue, and Swamp Gas Jenkins. Nice to have you all here. Continuing on with our roll call. God, I'm thirsty right now. The Mac Geek, nice to see you. The Mac Geek will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Karen in the Woo Train. Yes, I am looking awesome. Well, at least my hair is. All right. It's hot. Not going to lie. Real hot. Woo Poo, nice to see you. And who's next here? Al Garay over on Twitch says he just did 250 secret space push-ups in 45 seconds to warm up for tonight's show. He's pumped. He's jacked. Ready for it. Pissing me off, Evan Walters. Really pissing me off. Continuing on. Oh, there's little Marky Spender. He is Pam. Yep, he is Pam. He's sitting on his recliner right now, which is camouflage in color. Just in his boxer shorts with the air conditioning on, with a bag of Cheetos resting on his stomach. Actually, sorry, he's on the carnivore diet. So a bag of beef jerky sitting on his stomach right now, because that's the way he rolls. Asteroid, good to see you. And who's next here? Let's see here. Smurfy, good to see you. Davey Crotchkick, nice to have you back. Gory Tiger, thanks for coming on in. And who's next on our list? Christine Lynn, Dragonfly. Nice to see you. Paul Nicholas, thanks for coming out. Let's get to the radio side. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Lorien Fenton is going to join us. We are going to get into secret space program and UFOs, so make sure you get set tight. There's Lorien right there. Her hair looks fantastic. Oh, she looks fantastic right now. Continuing on with our roll call, there's Digger Dog. Nice to have you here. And let's see here. Who's next on our list? So we scroll on down. Rahonda Monpetit. Rahonda Monpetit. Nice to see you. Welcome to SOR Chat. Hi, Thomas Rock and Simon the Likeable. Nice to see you guys. Where the hell is Bill WD-40? Don't know where he is. Kind of lost. Who's supposed to lube us up? We can't get lubed up for the show if Bill WD-40 isn't here. Hi, Ann B. How are you? Somebody put out a rescue party to go find Bill WD-40. Store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag. All right? Do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the newswire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is a hot studio here at SOR headquarters. For Canada today, in my town, 35 degrees Celsius, 97 degrees Fahrenheit, or something like that. I'm sweating like a dog here. And people always say, hey, don't you have air conditioning in your house? For the 7 days a year that I actually get this type of heat, okay, there is no air conditioning. Although I do have one of those portable ones, but it's upstairs, keeping the ground level floor of SOR's rancher nice and cool. Well, I sweat like a dog in studio here with all the lights and fame and fortune that goes along with here. But that's all right. We're going to have a good show. I've got some ice water right here to keep me hydrated because I'm parched. I don't think I've ever used that word on this show before. I'm parched. Rolls off the tongue well. Say it with me. I'm parched. Oh, it feels good. Feels good. But I'm not complaining because a lot of my American listeners out there in 100+ degree temperatures. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible. But nonetheless, we'll get through it and I'll make it happen tonight. We'll get through this show. All right. Lorien Fenton will be here talking secret space program and UFOs. Then in hour 3, Steve Stockton arrives with another creepy story. Follow that up. Jackie Harmon will have the Crypted report. Yeah, Lorien Fenton, you're going to want Lee Strauss and Jackie Harmon at your next conference. Just letting you know. UFOs and Bigfoot combined. They got it. All right, one of my favorite guests in the world, and somebody who means so much to me in this field. Lorien Fenton is a broadcaster, podcaster, researcher, legend in the UFO world. She has done documentaries. She has done conferences on everything from UFOs to the JFK conspiracy. But more importantly to me, she's one of the most professional people I know, number one. And number two, she's one of the most important people in my radio life. Why? Because when I was still struggling to get my name out there, it was Lorien who decided I needed a break. She got me to UFO Con in 2018, and she got me on her show. She introduced me to major people in this field to help build my own credibility that I was searching for. And I can never, ever thank her enough because I love her so much. Lorien Fenton, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio once again. I know you hate it when I compliment you.
I do. I absolutely hate it. So there you go. Can you hear me okay?
You sound beautiful.
Oh,
You look
good, because I really threw this together so fast I didn't even check.
Oh, you're doing great, and you're sounding great. And I want to say thank you tonight. Our previous guest that we had booked, Jim Harold, was having a little bit of health issue tonight, and he hit me up this morning, and he was like, "Dave, I want to go on the show. You know I love you, but I got to take care of this, man. I got to take care of this." So, best wishes to Jim, and make sure he gets good health. But
I hope he gets better.
Yeah, you need to talk with Lee Strauss and Lorien and Jackie Harmon.
Okay.
They had an incredible encounter. Now, Jackie and Lee, we met them in Reno at our fan party. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember who they are.
Well, 2 weeks ago, on night number 1, Jackie had a Sasquatch fondle her from underneath the tent.
No, wait a minute. Hold it here.
Yeah.
You just said fondle her?
Fondled her, groped her.
Did she just lay there and enjoy it? What was she doing?
Oh, no, she was petrified solid, afraid to move. Okay. And it grabbed her ankles, her calves, her butt, her back, and she was freaked out to move. But the interesting part about it was they got up at 6 o'clock. They were literally tortured from about midnight till about 6 in the morning, when things calmed down, and they broke down camp with 3 tents, one full of clothes, one full of food, one full of equipment, and then their sleeping tent. They broke it down, went to another area on Mount Adams, and that night when they went to bed, strange lights were shining through the tent.
Wow.
And
now, do they know if they were in an area where any kind of cars or any rangers were at with flashlights? Do they know that?
They're in the middle of nowhere on Mount Adams.
Okay.
And here's the interesting part. Jackie, I'm paraphrasing the story here. Jackie says to Lee, woke Lee up. Did you see those lights? And he's like, no, I thought I saw something, with his eyes closed. Sometimes you see light kind of glare on him. And then she said about 5.5 minutes later, it happened again. And then she goes to wake Lee up, and she said, did you see him that time? And he's like, no. He goes, I didn't. She goes, well, what time is it? He goes, 5:30 in the morning. This was 1 o'clock in the morning when she realized the lights were on. Okay.
Oh no.
And yeah, 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, pardon me. So she had 4.5 hours of missing time the day after being fondled by a Sasquatch in her tent.
I don't even know what to say here. I'm just kind of sitting here going, what? Well, I'm so glad she wasn't alone when this happened. Because who knows? She may have been part of that 411 missing people at that point,
Oh, I understand that. I totally understand that. But I think, Lorien, that, you know what? Lee has been an intrepid UFO researcher for a number of years. He's got some great footage that you would love for your conference. Great footage. And he's a fantastic public speaker. I've actually asked him and Jackie, they came to me actually and said, hey, we got this idea that we want to put on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel. So they've now done 2 shows on what they call Element 115 at Friday night on our YouTube channel. But just putting the bug out, for you're always looking for good new people. That
I love new people, and I love people that actually do stuff and they do research and they really try to solve the issue instead of wanting to be on a stage.
Absolutely.
And if they get on a stage, that's great. But I can tell just by the way I met them and how you know them that they're very good people, and that the research means more to them than the fame and fortune that
Oh,
might or never come along.
100%. All right. For
Yeah.
people who may not be familiar with you, for the last 20 years, you have been doing everything in this field. And one of the topics, and usually I call you up and say, let's talk some UFOs, let's talk some aliens. But my favorite conversation to have with you is about the secret space program, because I know that you've been told things that
Well, and there's a problem, Dave. You know, there's a problem with that because most of the guys that have told me stuff told me I can never talk about it, but they wanted me to know that I was correct about where I went with it during the super soldier mind control, all the conferences that I held back in the early, about 2010 forward for a few years. And I did get tortured out at Area 51, and I could talk about that. I can talk about some of the things that happened to me and that happened at the conferences, and then I can infer some things around that. So if you don't mind, I'll do that.
yeah. Well,
Because
let's get into it.
yeah,
Before we get that deep into it, how did you end up getting into the deeper, darker side of the secret space program and UFOs?
that's a very good question, Dave, because what happened to me was that I was digging into what are angels, aliens, and who's talking to people that are. And I got to say something before I say anything else. Who is the lovely cat that takes over the show all the time?
Well, for our radio audience, they don't see us on YouTube, but Dirty Filth, our resident cartoonist, has a cat named Blob. And Blob, you know, he's Blob is Dirty Filth's biggest critic on his art. And she will literally go right up on camera and put her paws and her nose and sometimes her butt on Dirty Filth's art to say whether or not she approves of it or not.
I love her. She's gorgeous. Okay. Having said all that, I got to a stage interviewing the people. I started interviewing people about their contact in the 80s. And then by the 90s, I was pretty convinced that there was something going on with the military in conjunction with the ETs. And I was way beyond it being back engineering UFOs. And that's during the time period that I was studying David Adair and Bob Lazar, and just all the people that were coming out and talking about their experiences. And what I used to do, and you guys don't laugh at me because I am a nerd, I am a computer nerd. That was back when I was married to a gentleman that was, he was a C programmer at the time. And we had a computer company where he was designing software. And I started getting into Excel when it first came out, the database system, or it was actually DBase that I started working in. So what I used to do is I used to make databases of people's experiences, and I'd put down whether they talked to the alien, was telepathically communicating, how the communication was. I built my own little spreadsheet of things that happened during the contact. And one thing I noticed way early on in the early mid 90s was that people were having contact, and they could all be on a ship together, but all have a different kind of experience. Some would remember talking to a mantid being. Some would only see the grays. Some would see Plagiarans or very good looking humanoid people. Some would see the reptilians. I mean, there was a plethora. Yeah, that's it. Plethora of different types of beings in an area on the same ship during the same abduction of 15 or 20 people, and they would all kind of see something different. Except for the 3 ET little gray guys that would put them like on a table and do the abduction part. But I got to thinking, what if is all a masking thing, and they really are humans doing this abduction. So I went down that path for a while. I was trying to figure out if the humans were involved in this or not. And I quickly came to the conclusion, because many, many people said, I saw American military guys. They'd say military guys, and I'd say, do you think they were American or Russian or, whatever? They'd say, I think they were all American. And I'd see them on the ships. And I was like, wow. And the last person, and you know him, is Terry Lovelace. He was the last guy that I finally came to the conclusion that, I was right all along. I was back in the early 2000s. I was correct. There is a program going on with us and the ETs. Now, having said that, that's when I finally figured out that they have such mind control over us, the ETs themselves, because they're in a different dimension. They don't think like we think. And here's the kicker to this, folks. During all this research, I met a gentleman by the name of Plutronus, who just recently passed, my good buddy Tron. And he told me that in the early 90s, he was being contacted by this gray entity that called himself Inky. And he told Tron all about how they created us, that there were, all these things going. Now, whether I believe the aliens, another whole story or not. But one thing he did show Tron that I've never forgotten is that he said to Tron, go up and look into my eyes really close. So Tron mustered up the non-fear to walk right up to him and look in his little gray big eye. And Tron told me, he said it looked like caviar eggs all squished together. And he said the alien told him, you see all those little separate modules in my eye? He goes, each one of those has an optical nerve like you that goes to a brain sac in my big head. And I have like 60 separate lobes of my brain, or 100 or 200 or whatever, And he goes, we don't think like you think. You're kind of right and left, and that's about it. Logic and emotion and, whatever. We have all of that compounded into the thousands, and we communicate telepathically. So we're like on a neural network, like a computer. And he told Tron this, and that was it. That was the moment I knew that no matter what we as humans did, we would never be able to communicate with them on the same level of technology, level of physiology that they have, and we don't. And it's that simple. And they are like millions of years ahead of us in that process. And then in September of 2011, this was when those mind control conferences were born. I was actually driving down to Carrie Cassidy's conference, Bill Ryan, Carrie Cassidy of Project Camelot. And I was driving down to their conference. And while I was driving down there, I was listening to, I think it was George Norrie. And I started thinking about the show where Art Bell interviewed Duncan O'Finian, one of the supposed super soldiers. And I started thinking about that. And I thought, gee, isn't it sad that the super soldiers don't have their own conference? I don't know why I thought that. So by the time I got down there, my whole life completely changed after that weekend. I met Max Spears, I met James Rink, I met Duncan O'Finian, I met Aaron, what's his name? I met 3 other guys that said they were super soldiers. And by the time the weekend ended, I'd had a major UFO sighting on Saturday night where they came over the house, and it sounded like a helicopter right above my head. And I thought that, I thought the windows were rattling. I mean, all this stuff was going on. And they started a download which said, we can see through your eyes. We know what you're thinking. We can control you if we want to, blah, blah, blah. It just went on. And it was a very profound download. And I walked over to the window and I looked up to see the helicopter. And it wasn't a helicopter. There were 3 lights in a triangle formation over the house. And then the next thing I remember is I'm backing away from the window. And I think to myself, I'm really tired. I'm going to sleep. And I never think that when I see a UFO. I'm usually running through the house screaming UFO, UFO, or I'm out in the parking lot screaming UFO. You know, I don't do that. I'm much more, let's get out there and everybody see it, right? But I backed away and went to bed. And I thought that was kind of weird. So the next day I said to everybody, hey, did you hear the helicopter last night? And they're like, nope, we didn't hear a thing. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So that's how much control they have, you guys. It's like to the point where they can make you think there's a helicopter over the house, anything else is going on around you. It may not even be really happening. Okay. I mean, that's how much control they have. And then there was one other instant. Oh, well, after that, I started putting on the mind control conferences, and I started dealing with targeted individuals as well. And here's the correlation. Everybody kept saying to me, why are you doing like secret space program super soldier guys with ET? And then you're running over here and you've got all these targeted individuals that are being targeted by somebody in the government. We don't understand. And I said, you guys don't understand because you haven't heard what they've got to say yet. I think the military learned their mind control techniques from the ETs, or they gave them to them, and there's some kind of thing going on. Okay, this is what I'm thinking back then. Since then, I have gotten confirmation from some people in places I can't talk about that have basically said to me, Lorien, you're the only person we know who's figured out what's going on between the two. That this whole mind control targeted individuals, people that are hearing voice-to-skull communication, Aaron Alexis, the guy who shot up the naval yard, all those people, they're part of these projects that we got the basic information on how to do them from ET. And I'm like, oh, good. Because I kept thinking it was Joseph Mengele that was giving us this information, but he was not. He was doing more physiology, like cloning and things like that, which I have dug into too and found out some amazing information about that as well. So that's kind of where it happened for me. It was like a slow burn, but by 2014, I knew I was right, and I never did it again. I never had those conferences again, and I really don't pursue much of that whole mind control connection to the secret space program. What I'm on to now is the time travel kind of issue with the secret space program and the ETs. So that's kind of where I'm heading. That my new research is in that area. But I will tell you guys a few stories about this, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Please. Oh, we got about 90 seconds.
Oh, 90 seconds. Well, I'll just start this story by saying that we were at the Fiesta Hotel, which is not there anymore, in Henderson, Nevada for the 2013 Mind Control Conference. I had one in 2012 in California. I had 2013 in near Vegas and Henderson. And I had 2014 at the Gold Rush something in Vegas itself. So I will tell you guys about a few instances that happened in all of those conferences, but I'll tell you the one that I finally stopped doing them because of what they did to me. So you guys will understand.
Oh, if this is the story that I am thinking about, this one literally creeps the living daylights out of me every time I've heard it. You know, there are certain stories out there you never get sick of, and you want to hear them over and over again. And
I'm not sure if this is that story, but I hope it is.
This is one of them because it never happened to me. And,
and you don't want it to.
No. So it involves UFOs, reptilians, some people in uniforms, and maybe a couple other friends.
That's somebody else's story, but I will bring that up too.
All right. Lorien Fenton is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, Secret Space Program, UFOs, and whatever else we could fit in tonight in the next 90 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Man, I love it when Lorien's on. This is what makes this show fun. My name is Dave Scott. It is boiling hot at SOR headquarters. Summertime's finally arrived. and it's daylight here until about 11 o'clock. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. Quickly here. Hi, Stu Effin Gerson. Tracy Johnson, welcome to SOR. And who else do we have here? Skip to my Lou, how are you? Good morning to you. Well, we're caught up. Okay, don't give away anything during the break here, Lorien. Save it.
Oh,
save
I'm
it.
not. I'm not. I'm watching Dirty Filth. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. That looks like a Mothman or something.
Well, let's take a peek.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Bigfoot and Mothman. Am I getting close, Dirty?
You are correct, Lorien.
Yay.
And one of them made a poor decision with their summertime snacks. That's all I can say at this time.
Okay.
You know what, Dirty? When Lorien has her conference next year, you got to come down with me, and that way
Yes.
you can get a table and show off your art.
I think they can do that.
Yeah.
Will there be a portal available?
There might be a portal available.
Perfect.
Lorien likes a good portal.
Yeah, I'm working on getting my own.
Right now at SOR HQ, what's the temperature? Right now it is 28 degrees Celsius, 82 Fahrenheit.
It's pretty slimy.
Yeah. Earlier today, it was warm. Tomorrow, it's supposed to get up to 91. So that will be 33 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
When you're up in the mountains, too, so...
Yeah. And somewhere north of us, there's a forest fire burning because I saw the smoke today, but it's nowhere close to here, which is good. Hi, Troy SR71. Yeah, I'm kind of done with the old forest fire smoke. It sucks. Really sucks.
Well, at least you don't have to evacuate this time, Dave.
Where did Blob go?
She's laying by the fan currently in a puddle of fuzz.
Yeah, I saw she was highly critical of this piece right off the bat.
Oh, she came up right at the start, jumped in there.
I know, I saw that.
I might have to keep this one for her collection.
Yeah.
Are the cats fighting again outside? Probably.
Hi. Oh, look who it is. It's the gorgeous and lovely Katie Page from Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. She says, hi, Dave. Hi, Lorien.
Hi, guy. Oh, Katie. Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Yeah. Katie Page is like with you in my top 10 people ever in this field.
She's a blast. We have fun when we're together.
Yeah.
You want to know something cool, Dave?
What's that?
On my calendar for July, Katie is on. She's the picture for that one where she goes to Roswell and investigates a crashed UFO.
Nice.
I still have the original drawing. I'd like to mail it to her or give it to someone that can get it to her.
Katie Page, make sure you send Dirty Filth your Facebook message with your address. Okay. So that way he can send you his cartoon.
It comes with a frame
Mm-hmm.
and certificate of authenticity.
That's right. Street value of that is like $100.
Yes. Dave, I also got like 600 drawings to send you.
I know. We got to figure out something to do. Well, let's figure something out good to him. Because you know who would like, if you're going to send him to my house, you know what I'm going to do is we got to figure out a way that we can share them with our audience. We might have to do a draw.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. A draw for a drawing from Dirty Filth. Autographed.
Maybe I'll get Blob's paw on there too.
Yeah. You know what? That would be freaking awesome, man. If you could get like an ink pad with Blob and get her to like autograph the back of them.
I can manage that. I'll make sure I do that after the art walk, Dave.
Nice. Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, Mama Catherine. I hope you had a wonderful day. You know, Mama Catherine sends me a lovely good morning note every morning on my phone. That's what I wake up to. It's awesome. 18 seconds before we're going to go. Thank you, Sandra, for the lovely super chat. Our lone super chat of the night. Appreciate the love and support. Thank you to all our new listeners who've hit subscribe and much more. And here we go, everyone. All right, let's talk some UFOs and secret space program in the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Lorien Fenton is our guest. We're going to get right to her momentarily. But first, hi, I'm Dave Scott. I'm the guy who talks a lot of weird stuff to you each and every night on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it. All right, now that I got the introductions out of the way, reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Or if you don't check us out there, you can download us at any major podcast network for free. Free, that is, people. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Let's continue on here. Lorien Fenton is here, researcher, podcaster, excellent wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things weird and strange. Lorien, welcome back.
I'm happy to be here with you tonight.
I'm happy too. You were about to tell us a spooky story about an experience
Well,
you had.
now, there are many experiences we had during the Mind Control Super Soldier and Targeted Individual conferences that we had. I will say Melinda Leslie, Nisha Johnston, Solaris Blue Raven, boy, I'm looking at his face. Will I remember his name? Let's hope. Anyhow, Dr. Haas and some very famous Judy Bennington, a whole bunch of famous people that were around targeted individuals in the early 2000s showed up at my conference to speak, and we had a vast array of different types of speakers. We had super soldiers, professed super soldiers. We had these major doctors and psychologists show up. We also had people who are running targeted individual like conference calls every week as support groups. And we also had a lot of the people who were thinking that the ETs were doing major mind control with them. So bottom line, it was a very bizarre conference. That's the least I can say about it. And I have found them all, and I have never put them online. I was told not to at the time. I was told I'd be in a lot of trouble if I did. And I didn't. So it's now 10 years later from the last one. And I did a little inquiry very recently, and they said, you can go ahead and put them up. Nobody believe it anyhow. I thought, well, why didn't you tell me that 10 years ago? Right. But anyhow, so they will be available soon. So you guys can see the kind of insanity that I was dealing with at the time. Even Melinda Leslie told me that if it wasn't for my conferences, there are many things she would never have figured out about ufology if it hadn't been for those super soldier mind control and targeted individual conferences. She said it was probably one of the most since the early 80s, it was one of the most profound 3 conferences she'd ever been to. So, and you could talk to her about that someday, Dave, and she'll tell you, and it's just wild. So anyhow, during the conference, the very first thing that happened that was very bizarre was in the 2012 conference, Max Spears ODs at the Airbnb house that I have him at, and everybody in the house is all targeted individuals, mind control victims, blah, 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 or UFO contactees. And they're all looking at him ODing, and they're saying, oh, he'll be fine. And I'm looking at him going, he's dying, right? So I gather him up in the car. I take him to the hospital. And this is where it got really weird. I mean, it's weird enough that Max is already on the verge of dying on me. But then it got very strange because I'm in the hospital with them, and they're trying to revive him. And they found out he took like a whole bunch of painkillers. Long story short, I'm half asleep. It's like 4:00 in the morning, and he's just starting to wake up after they gave him a Narcan and a bunch of other things. And I see out of the corner of my eye, as I'm lifting my head up and starting to wake up, I see a black shadowy figure trying to choke him. And I'm like, what the heck? And I look it up, and I kind of go like this, and the thing disappears.
Oh my.
And then Max wakes up and he goes, oh my God, somebody was trying to kill me. And I'm like, I didn't say anything to him. I just kind of sat there and went, like a crazed human being. And I just didn't say anything to him about it. I told him finally, I think about a week later, what had happened. But he was definitely being targeted by some dark, shadowy figure, which years later, I kind of correlated to can't talk about this, but I'm going to talk about I'm going to skirt around it. I figured out that there was some kind of remote viewing program that targeted people through some kind of AI black magic kind of thing. Okay. And I don't know if Carrie Cassidy has ever told about her experience with the same type of incident, but if she did, I'll get permission from her to talk about it in the future. But she had one very similar to mine, and it was much worse. They were going after her boyfriend at the time, and they aren't the only two incidences I've heard of this. I've heard of people waking up, and there is like a shadowy being standing over them, trying to choke them or suffocate them. And it's not the old hag thing. This is like, it has a military feel to it. That's all I'm going to describe it as. So that was the first strange thing that happened in 2012. And you think, but at that point, I would figure out maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But no, Lorien the next year pulls off the 2013 conference in Henderson. So we've got all these people on stage talking, and all the super soldiers are there. Michael Prince is there, Max Spears, Aaron, I can't remember Aaron's last name. Duncan O'Finian refused to show up. There was a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on. And that it was Sunday night, because Monday was my radio show. That Sunday night, Melinda tells the story. Has she told this story on your show before about us all being abducted?
Yes, but we need the calm version of that.
Okay. So it's the day after the last day of the conference, and I'm getting set up for my show. Melinda comes into the room because she's being interviewed. Another girl named Erin comes in. Misha Johnston comes in, and somebody else came in the room. They were all being interviewed. And one of them says to me, oh my God, my door got broken into last night. And I'm like, what? And they go, yeah, the whole chain thing got busted off and broken. I said, you're kidding, right? Because, I have to pay for that. And they're like, I'm sorry, whatever. And then Erin comes in and she goes, I can't believe we were taken last night. All of us, there were like 15 of us down there. And Melinda goes, yeah, something happened last night. She goes, I'm trying to remember it, but I think I know it. Yeah, we got taken. And then Misha pops in and says, no, we never got taken. We're all good, So I just kind of let it go. And then I go down to check out that the next day. I left on Tuesday. and they charged me with 3 rooms of broken in door frames that were busted in. And I'm like, why are you charging me for this? Okay. So I got really upset, but I ended up having to pay for it because that's part of the deal. When you're a conference producer, those things happen. You got to take care of them. So I did. Now, here's where it got kind of strange. I'll tell you guys about the abduction now, and then I'll tell you about what happened to me on the way home, which is even weirder. So apparently, for 5 months after that conference, it happened in May, by September, I have been on 6 radio shows, big radio shows, with all these people that were going on saying, we all got group abduction, we're all, we were all examined and all this stuff happened. And I'm like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Don't ruin my conference by getting out there saying these things are happening, right? And so I'd go on all these shows and rebuttal and rebuttal and rebuttal. And it was just turning into a nightmare. By September, it was calming down. The phone rings about September 15th, and it's Melinda. And she goes, Lorien, she goes, I haven't been able to sleep with the lights off. I have to have a light on. I'm going through PTSD. I'm having major problems from our abduction at your conference. And I said, no, you're not. She goes, yes, I am. She goes, you got to hear me out. She goes, I wrote the whole thing down. I remembered it within 4 days. I wrote the whole thing down, and Scotty helped me because she remembered what happened when they broke into the room. I said, okay, I'll listen. And I was really pissed, but I said, okay, I'll listen. Because you guys, when you're a conference producer, the last thing you want is the world to know that a bunch of military people have come and drugged you and taken you, right? I mean, I was really angry, I got to tell you. So I'm listening to her, and she starts in with the whole story. They broke into our room. Scotty, they knocked Scotty out with a handkerchief over her. They knocked her out with me. They shot me with whatever they shot us with, and they got under my arms, but my shoes weren't on, and they were yelling at me. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then she gets to the part where, they took us down the service elevator, and they took us down this hallway to the loading dock area. And then I'm starting to have this weird feeling, and I'm like, okay. It's like something was remembering something. And the next thing I know, she goes, oh, and I need to describe to you what he was wearing, the guy who took me. And I said, oh, God. Okay. And she starts to describe it. And I said, wait, stop. He was wearing blah, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, my God, that's exactly it. And the weird thing was he was wearing a military tan cap, but it had a very short brim on it. It wasn't like a baseball cap. It was really short. And it was kind of square, not square, but rounded with a straight up cut to it. And I described that exactly what she had written down and drawn on the paper. And then I remembered something kind of strange. I remembered that dog tags were hitting me in the chin and the lips. They were kind of brushing up against me when he was leaning over me. And I was like, oh, that's so annoying. That's what I was thinking while it was happening, right? Because I did everything they told me to do, because I'm a good, compliant little abductee, apparently. And they said, get up, put on your pants, your shirt's fine. I remember that. And then they shot me with something in the arm. And it wasn't on the top of the arm. It was under the arm. And that was something Melinda had said, too. So we had all these comparisons. And then I remembered, as she said, we're walking down the hallway and we're up against, and I said, wait, stop. We're up against a concrete wall. She goes, yeah, that's exactly. We're up against a concrete wall. I said, I had my hands behind my back because I could feel the concrete wall. And I remember that feeling. And then she says to me during the abduction, she's looking down at me because Melinda's much taller than I am. She's looking down at me and she goes, wow, this is crazy. And I said, I looked up at her, and this is exactly what I said. I said, no one's going to believe this. Oh my God. or the other way around. Oh my God, no one's going to believe this. I think that's exactly what I said. And she had written that down, and I remembered saying it. So then I knew it happened. then shortly after that, Misha went and got regressed about it. And then it turns out she had a huge interaction with these people. One of the guys said he started to walk away from everybody. He said, I'm not having anything to do with this. And he started walking away, and they tackled him and they did a chokehold on him until he said, okay, I'll stay. And what they did is they took us into these, I think it was 2 Ryder trucks. They looked like a Ryder moving truck on the outside, but when you opened them up, there was like medical, like dentist chairs. There was 2 in one, I think, and 3 in another. And there were about 15 of us. So there was like 3 rounds of 5 going into these trucks. And what they did to us, I don't know, because I haven't been regressed for that. But Misha can tell you what they did to her, and Melinda can pretty much tell you what they did to her. But from what I gather from what everybody else has said, it was more like a training op for these guys. And it was to see who was going to be compliant. And they only took people that were already taken before or contactees. So I knew full well at that point. I didn't know at that point, but in February, we were at another conference together, Misha and I and Melinda, and they took me into this little room and they sat me down because I kept denying that I'm a contactee and I don't, nothing happens to me, right?
Right.
They sat me down and they said, Lorien. And I said, what? They go, well, you were taken. I said, yeah, okay, I'll admit I was taken. Okay, whatever. And they said, you know what that means, right? And I said, no. And they go, it means that you are a major contactee or they wouldn't have bothered with you at all. And I said, oh. And then it finally hit me. I was like, oh my God, maybe I am, I still haven't ever been regressed, you guys. I don't really want to know, to be honest with you. But yeah, so there you go. Now, what I thought was more interesting than that whole abduction with the military kind of people was the fact that, and I saw the Ryder trucks in the parking lot on Sunday afternoon because I had to go out to my car to pick up some equipment for the speakers and the mixing board. And as I was going through the parking lot, I noticed 2 big, kind of like they looked oversized for Ryder trucks to me. I just thought, oh, maybe they're making him taller now. I don't know, whatever. And I saw both of them in the parking lot that day. And they were not there on Monday, of course. They were gone. So, yeah, kind of interesting. So I leave that event on Tuesday, and I'm with Tyler, and I'm with another guy, Ed. And we're going out to the Little Alien Inn in Rachel, Nevada on our way home. I had to go to San Francisco. So instead of going through Bakersfield and up 5, I chose to go up through Tonopah and up to Reno and then on home. So we're in Little Alien, and it's about 3:00 in the morning. And I don't know, we've been up all night, but we decided to go out and look for UFOs at 3:00 in the morning. So we did. We went out and hiked up Queen Hill, I think it is, or something like that. Anyhow, we're out there in the middle of the night. It's about 6:00 in the morning. The sun hasn't come up yet. It's not quite dawn. Maybe it was 5:30. And we get back to our trailer. If you guys have ever been to the Little Alien, they have a bunch of trailers that have a bedroom in the back and a bedroom in the front and a Jack and Jill bathroom kind of in the middle.
Yes,
where you go down a hallway. Yeah. Have you been there?
Last year.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about.
When you're there again, look at the ceiling because my $50 Canadian bill is hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. So anyhow, we're staying in one of these rooms, and my air conditioner didn't work. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to die. I'm just going to die. So I open up the bedroom door, and I'm in the back bedroom, and I open up the door that goes out to the desert, and my car's parked down below it. And I just thought, oh, that's nice. It'll be a nice desert breeze coming through my bedroom. The next thing I know, it's like 9:00 in the morning, and I wake up. And my mouth hurts so bad, I can't believe that I'm just laying there with my mouth hurting this bad, okay? I cannot figure out what happened. I thought maybe I bit my tongue really hard in the middle of the night somehow. I didn't know what the heck happened. I get into the bathroom and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I lift my tongue up and I could tell something's wrong. And it's right in the palate part where your tongue connects to the bottom of your mouth. And I'm like, something's really wrong. I couldn't swallow. Every time I moved my tongue, it felt like I was going to die. So thank God I had 2 Vicodin with me because I take it for my migraine headaches and I get a few a month and, there's that. And thank God I had them with me because I swear to God, it was the only thing that took the pain away so I could swallow enough to like drink a cup of coffee or, survive it. I didn't eat for 2 days. But anyhow, I finally get home. We had to spend the night in Reno and I took my last one to go to sleep. And then the next day I pull into the driveway back here in San Francisco and I have my roommate. I said, I'm dying here. I don't know what the heck happened to me, but something is really wrong with my tongue. I don't know if I bit it, if there's a vein that exploded. I don't know what happened. So he goes, well, let's look at it. So we get a mirror and I said, here, I'll hold it. And I held it up and he's got a flashlight and he's got a mirror and I see it. And what it looks like, I swear to God, guys, it looked just like 2 holes from like, if you got laser, what do they call that? Where they shoot that thing at you. It's like a gun, but it's 2 things of electricity. I don't know what that's called. I can't remember.
Stun gun?
Stun gun. Yeah, maybe that's it. Okay. It looked like those 2 holes that it would leave from the stun gun, but they're burned in like 1/4 of an inch or more. Like they're deep and they're symmetrically perfect in size and they're approximately 1.5 inches apart. And I was like, what the heck happened to me? And then here's when it happens, guys. This is when, you're like, okay, I'm a fool. I should never have done what I did. I hear a voice in my head and it says, clear as day, we told you not to talk.
Oh my.
And that was that. And then from that moment on, I decided that's the last I do of this type of conference. Now, there were a couple more instances after that where I was surveilled and I confronted the guy and he finally peeled out of the driveway. And, there was that. I was actually, I laugh. I tell everybody this story, but they think I'm nuts. But I was looking for bombs under my car, literally at one point. And I thought, this is just not a good look for me to be this afraid. And then I called a buddy of mine that's ex-CIA and I said, would you please do me a favor? I said, I'll never ask another favor of you again, but I need to know, are they surveilling me? Are they bothering me? Are they mad at me for doing the conferences? What's going on? So 2 weeks later, my phone rings and he says to me, well, and he's laughing. I go, why are you laughing? He goes, well, you're pretty stupid. And I said, yeah, I know that. Thank you very much. But what's going on? He goes, well, they were following you for a while, but you're so oblivious that you didn't even know they were following you, apparently. And he goes, do you remember the day in Starbucks? And I said, what day in Starbucks? He goes, yeah, one of the guys that was trailing you and following you was fed up with following you around and you not noticing. Then he came into the Starbucks and started a conversation with you. Do you remember that guy? And I said, yeah, I did. I thought he was just crazy. Because he started talking about targeted individuals. And I thought, oh, maybe he knows me from my radio show. Whatever. I was so oblivious to this. I didn't know he was trying to intimidate me. I was so oblivious. So pretty much after that, I stopped doing the mind control conferences. And it wasn't just because of that, guys. What happened shortly after that did change my life. And this was so profound for me. I'd love to tell the story. How much time do we have?
We got 20 seconds. So when we come back to break, you're going to tell the story. And then what you're going to do is we got to get into some secret space program.
Oh, yes. I will tell just a little bit, though, because I can't do too much on that.
I know. Just a little teaspoon. That's all I want. Just a little teaspoon. Just
okay.
Pour some sugar on me It's
I
definitely
will.
see.
Little fairy dust.
Exactly. Lorien Fenton on Spaced Out Radio tonight. 1 hour down. We have her for another hour here. My name is Dave Scott. We'll be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. Before I go to break, I just want to make an official announcement to our chat room. I am Pam. I am Pam. And you could get your I am Pam t-shirts on our website right now. They're right there. They are Pam approved, people. Pam approved. Go check them out. Dirty Phil, turning it over to you for a little bit. Don't forget to turn your microphone off and mute. Be right back, Lorien.
That's my swear-proof mechanism. I swear a lot. All right, everybody's gone. You're gonna have to sit here and listen to me ramble while I draw my cartoons here, everybody. So, unfortunately, if you, I guess the radio, non-radio guys can see us, or however it works. I'm sorry, Dave. I'll have to get a little pitch pad thing there. No, not about that, but here we are. Anyways, we're drawing up the Sasquatch. Doing his feet, or his legs and his feet, which I was having some difficulties with earlier today because the cats kept walking on it. It was super hot, and I'm sweating all over the place, and it's just a massive amount of filthy slime all over the drawings. And yesterday I had to redo one of them. Cats. So there it is. Anyways, here we go. I always make a good point to draw feet. Oh boy. Well, if I mess this up in real time, look at it. Oh, I did pretty good there. Do you say so myself? Backfoot's always a little bit easier. I have no idea why, but it is. But it's all hairy anyways. It's like Sasquatch had hairy feet before the hobbits did. Or halflings, depending what system you're playing for your tabletop role-playing adventures. So we got Sasquatch mostly down there. Put a couple of nails on him there. Hopefully, yeah, well, I don't know if I did mute myself or not, but hopefully everybody can hear me. Nonetheless, the Mothman here, I'm going to do his big red eyeballs. Apparently, sometimes they're not red, but my Mothman goes with. He's got the red ones. These little mothy tethers in the top there. Whiskers. Little Mothman whiskers there. So I also have to say the moth is definitely my spirit animal of some sort. I always seem to encounter them. They always seem to be around me. If that's how it works, I'm not sure. I just seem to encounter them a lot. So that's what I'm going with. If anybody doesn't like it, too bad for you. All right. This, by the way, this ice cream and Slurpees, these, that's just terrible English. Nonetheless, they're having sour blueberry ice cream and slushies. Except the Mothman made a poor choice, went with the ice cream, which got holes in direct sunlight, and now it's starting to melt on him. It's not quite done. We'll have to wait till last little bit to see here. We'll get his hand all finished. Look at how fuzzy he is. Of course the Mothman's going to be fuzzy. Actually, I think if I click that thing, I can go to the latest comments. Oh, yes. Look at that. Baby penguins. You know, the penguin was a pretty cool villain in the Michael Keaton Batman films. Let's finish up this fuzzy little Mothman hand. No, I thought that was going to be a little bit bigger, but I got space to put the arm there. And then there's some of those Mothman wings. Although sometimes I see drawings of Mothman and his wings aren't bat-like, but it's just easier to draw bat-like wings, to be honest. Just moves the eye forward a little bit better. That's all that matters. Just getting your eyeball to move around.
So Dirty.
Hi.
Where do you live?
I live in Alberta. Excuse me.
Oh,
which
so
is
you
one
are in
province.
Alberta.
Yeah, one province over from Dave. But
He's
we're
in
both
Edmonton.
melting.
He's in Edmonton.
Oh,
Yes.
you're an Oilers fan too.
I'm gonna cry.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
Lorien,
Notice I didn't bring it up.
Lorien texted me the night of Game 7. She's like, "Don't you call me? I'm PVRing the game."
I didn't want to know. And it was so sad. I just said, forget it. I'm not going to call you for a week.
I was so sad.
I know
very
it was devastating because they came back so well, and I just was expecting the same kind of performance on that night. But
I know. So was I. Sigh. So was I.
Yep.
All right. We got about 45 seconds here. Looking good, Dirty.
Thanks, Dave.
Don't forget, everybody, in 2 days, make sure you go to 7-Eleven and get your free Slurpee on 7-Eleven.
What?
Yeah.
Free Slurpees?
Yeah. At 7-Eleven on July 7th or 11th, which is 7-Eleven, you get a free Slurpee.
My teeth are going to be blue, you guys. I'm drinking
Nice.
my methylene blue.
Nice. Thank you, W. Decker, Area 51 or Area 53, and Sandra for the super chats tonight. Don't forget, you can get your I Am Pam t-shirts right now at the Spaced Out Radio store. Here we go, everyone. All right, let's kick off hour number 2 with Lorien Fenton tonight. We're going to get into some UFO stories, secret space program, and all other stuff that we can fit in the next hour. My name is Dave Scott, and I want to say thank you to everybody tuning us on in tonight, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. We love you so much. Yeah, you make us kind of awesome. Yeah, you make us awesome. I'll repeat it again. You make us awesome. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight. What is it? Cacodemomania. Cacodemomania is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Here's Lorien Fenton, hour 2 of the big show, where we are going to have a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Lorien, you were going to finish up a weird UFO story and encounter.
Well, this is kind of the accumulation of all 3 years of the Super Soldier Mind Control conferences. Look, my tongue is purple. Blue.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Just thought I'd throw that in for you guys. I drink methylene blue, so you guys might want to check that out someday. Anyhow, so long story short, after I'm being surveilled and all these crazy things are happening in my life, I finally realized that I got to stop being afraid. And my real question was, how did all the other researchers in our community that are still around and still talking at conferences and what have you, how are they all still alive after all the things they've exposed? So the first person I called was Jordan Maxwell. And I said to Jordan, I said, why are you still alive? And he says, oh, they're coming after you, huh? And I said, well, yeah, I got some problems. He goes, well, you got to ask God for protection. And I said, what do you mean ask God for protection? He goes, that's what you got to do. He goes, that's what they told me when I got to the point you're at. And that's what probably they asked somebody when they got to that point. All whistleblowers, all people who get in trouble, everybody gets to the same place. And that is asking God for protection. I said, okay. I said, I'll do it. So sure enough, he says it'll take a while, you know, you just got to go out in the yard and scream up to God every day and beg him to help you. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So I did. I'd go walking out into the field near my house, and every day I'd get down on my knees and I'd pray to God, and I'd start screaming at him and yelling and begging and the whole 9 yards. Finally, on about the 10th day, I think it was, I went back to the house, and I felt this feeling, like I can't describe it to people unless they've actually had it, but it was like a Kundalini experience, but more than that, because I wasn't having, like, you know, up and down the spine kind of tingling fun stuff going on. It was more like I was connecting with the cosmos, and I can't describe it to you, but anyhow, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like in this state of calm, but I'm like expanded to the universe. It's like being on acid, but without the acid, I guess. And suddenly I hear a voice say, "You are now protected." And I went, "What?" And I look up and I see 2 giant angels standing in my room that are like so big, they're like out the ceiling, but the ceiling's gone too. And they're like 30 feet tall. And I've never had a problem since that day. I mean, it's just that simple, folks. I mean, for me, it was that simple. For all of my predecessors, it seemed to be that simple. But there's one thing I did do that probably helped that a lot to happen. And that is, at one point during that whole 10-day period, I really meant it when I said it. I told God, I said, "Look, I'll die for you. I'll die for the cause of love, humanity, you, God, belief, spirituality, whatever the case may be. But if it comes to me having to die to get the truth out, I will do it. I will die for you." And then within a few days, the other experience happened. So I don't know if that was the reason I got the protection. And I don't know that anybody told me I had to do that, but it was something very private for me. And I'm now sharing it because it's going to be in my new book that's coming out. But bottom line is, folks, you know, if you're really fighting the fight and you're really in a place that you're really, you know, scared, the best thing to do is ask God for help. You know, I mean, I hate to say it. And hey, trust me, for me, God is probably a mantis being. You know, I don't know what my God looks like, but he's definitely more of not a religious type God, you know, not the God of Moses or, you know, that type of God, but more the overall supreme being of the universe, you know, the energy field or whatever. But that worked for me. So I'm just throwing that out there. Now, Dave wanted to know about secret space program.
Secret space program.
Okay.
Why are you only allowed to tell us a little bit?
Because the problem with the secret space program is that it is absolutely real. And I can tell you guys one thing. I was told by a top scientist in the United States, and he did me a favor. This was a happenstance accident that I ran into this guy at a conference, and blah, blah, blah happened. But bottom line was, I told him about somebody that we knew in common, and I got him on the phone with him. And I think he was grateful that I connected him with him again, because they hadn't spoken for a very, very long time. That he threw me a bone, guys. And here's what he said. We were talking about triangle UFOs in a conversation. And he just looked at me and said, because I said, "Oh, I saw a big black triangle and it had lights in the corner and, you know, blah, blah, blah." And I was telling this other scientist about my experience. And he says to me very poignantly and looks right at me and says, "Was it ours or theirs?" And I said, "It was ours." He goes, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because it didn't have the feeling that the ones with the ETs on it has." I said, "There could have been ETs on it, but it felt like it was military." And he said, "Oh, okay." That's all he said. So what that told me right there, and that's how they do it, folks. They don't come out and say, "Oh yeah, it's ours. We got a secret space program, and we back engineered it 500 years ago," and blah blah blah. They never do that. Every scientist I've ever met that threw me a bone, it was a bone. It was like, "Here you go. Here's the answer to the eternal question, and don't ever ask me anything again." It's that kind of situation. And I was very grateful. And to this day, I thank him for that. And I've never had anybody else actually say to me that it's real. Okay. I've had people say the programs are real. These are my other contacts. They have told me stories about things. I will tell you, Melinda and I have run across some corresponding incidences. And I think I mentioned it in the last show that one of the guys that came back that Melinda was working with, he woke up in his kitchen in his parents' house after going into the service and then going to a job in South America. And then he wakes up in the house. He doesn't know what happened for the last year of his life. And he just got discharged from the service or was home on leave or, who knows what, but he doesn't remember a thing. And Melinda's been working with that guy. But anyhow, long story short, there are many people like Melinda's got these guys that come out of the military. And if you want to call them super soldiers that work in the secret space program, I would definitely call them that. Because what they do is they're abducting humans in correlation with the ETs abducting them. And in many cases, which blows my mind, okay, I'm going to give you guys two stories real quick, and they're short. They're one of the guys that came to me said, my job, I don't know how to word this without getting in trouble, so I'm going to go slow here. Said my job was that after a UFO abduction, we were to meet the ship at a certain location or an underground base and take the people into interrogation. And then we were to have the ETs wipe their mind so they won't remember anything that happened to them during our interrogation because their mind had already been wiped about the abduction. And now they need the ETs to wipe their mind again. And then they go back home in a van instead of being taken back in a ship. Now that doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen to a lot of people that are abducted. They don't remember this part. And and I was wondering, and I did ask the guy, I said, how often does this part of the equation happen? He goes, it used to happen a lot more. He goes, lately, and this was in the early 2000s, so I don't know what's happened since then. But he says, lately, we have been cutting down on our abduction part, and they have been cutting down on theirs. Now, I'm talking about the ETs here, folks. He says, they've been cutting out a lot of the abduction for genetic material. And he goes, I can't tell you any more than that. And that's all he told me. So I don't know. But he verified something very important for me. He verified that there's a whole group of these military guys that we would call super soldiers that work in the secret space program that do different projects. And his project was what he called re-abduction or after abduction. And that's basically their job. They go to work, they sit around. He goes, we can sit around for a month at a time in those bases waiting for the signal from these ET, and then we go pick them up, and then they do the mind wipe, and we send them home. He goes, if they have done a what they call a national sweep. I was like, what's a national sweep? He goes, that's where they pick up people from all over this, different states. He goes, if they're doing that, then we just put them back on the ship, and then they drop them off. And another guy, now this is another person that did a similar job, but his was more, he was basically flying them around in a TR-3B or maybe a big black triangle. I don't know, because I don't think the TR-3Bs are anything like the big black triangle I saw that I know was military. Okay.
Right.
He would not tell me what he kind of inferred he was driving a TR-3B. Okay. And and he said, and it's funny, he said to me, he goes, I was driving it. And I said to him, do you mean you were the pilot? And he goes, no. He goes, I was basically steering. And I said, what do you mean by steering? And he said, well, you understand that there is a mind meld when it comes to flying one of those things, right? And I said, oh, yeah, I know about that. And I probably shouldn't say any more at this point. But the bottom line is those guys are really not like our pilots now that we have that fly around in the jets. They don't manually like fly the dang thing. It's pretty much all in their mind. So
I want to ask you, because a lot of people who listen to this type of programming are very tired of this. You got to trust me on this attitude. Now, I believe you because I know you. Okay. And I know that you would
yeah.
not throw me a wrench to make me look like a fool on this show. Okay.
But there is one caveat to that, Dave. I don't know if these guys are lying to me. I don't know. I'm always 50-50 about this. I believe them, but you don't know if they were sent to give me a story because I'm me, right? You don't know that because after the mind control conferences, I questioned everything I had heard up to that point because I started wondering maybe they were sent. I don't know. But I got to tell you this. In my heart, most of the guys that I've met, I believe them because they've told me never to talk about it, never tell anybody, never, blah, 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 blah. Upon my death, I mean, pretty much. And I can do generalities and they're okay with that. But seriously, I think these guys are telling me the truth. I have a good feeling about it being the truth. So go ahead.
But, and I believe you, okay? Because I know you personally and I know how seriously you take these topics. But there's a lot of people out there who look at this and they say, hey, like, how do we trust, nobody wants to give up their name. Everybody wants to give up the story, but nobody wants to give up their name that we can maybe draw connections to or see where they worked or video footage or documents that aren't redacted. Like, we all want the golden goose. You know what I'm saying? But it's tough to ask for that when a lot of these people have lives, families, mortgages, careers. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, do you remember what Melinda said on the show? I don't know if she did this or not, but I have done it. I've said these guys tell me they will kill their family, they'll kill their kids, they'll follow them into death. I mean, I don't know what that even means anymore, but they've all said the same thing to me, Dave. They've all said if I come out and talk about this, they will follow me into my next life. I mean, that's how scared they are of whoever is doing this to them. And I've been thinking a lot about what they meant by this following me into the next life, following me into death. They all say the same thing about the torture they're going to, their family will be killed, blah, blah, blah. I'm wondering, and this is just Lorien wondering, folks. I'm wondering if that statement doesn't mean that the ETs have some kind of control over time or death. I'm starting to wonder about that very deeply. So that's something for you guys all to think about. So, but time is really, it's very much a part of this. And that's even where this whole 20 and back thing came from, part of the secret space program and the super soldier kind of thing, was that they kept saying they were doing 20 and back. Well, I'm not necessarily sure they're doing 20 and back, but I do think that the ETs have the ability to make it seem like time is stopped and you can do hours or days or months or years with them and then be back here in the same time frame that you left. Now, I call that time travel. I don't call it like 20 and back. I call it compressing time or expanding it or whatever. Because who knows? I mean, those guys may have the ability to compress our time to the point where it could be days and weeks. Like when Travis left, when he was gone for 5 days, he really
Yes.
thought he'd only been gone for like 12 or 24 hours. So and he went to another planet, or I can't remember the whole story, or on a mothership. I mean, he was gone literally for 5 days in our time, but he really thought it wasn't very long at all. So there is something about time compression. So I do give these 20 and back people a little tiny bit of credence when it comes to them thinking they're gone for years and years. But the stories are a little too fantastical. And they remind me very much of Denzel Washington's The Manchurian Candidate, where
Right.
they put false memories in about things and what have you. I mean, who knows? But I do think it's real. I think people actually in the military may actually go into a situation where they're working with ETs on a ship, a big black triangle for a year at a time, and they may think that only a week has gone by. And in our reality, maybe only a week has gone by. Maybe they go back home and their wife says, "Oh, did you have a good week?" And they go, "Yeah, I had a great week," and they have false memories put in. Who knows? I don't know, but that's where I'm starting to head down that path too.
Who knows about this? If you were to speculate without giving names, who knows about this program that's happening? Does
Well,
the president know?
no. And I'm going to tell you something. And I don't know how to say this without getting myself in a lot of hot water, but I am going to say a little bit. I'm going to skirt it. There are people in the military through projects that happened in the 80s and 90s that know all about it. They deal with ET on almost a daily basis. And if you look at something like an Emery Smith story, or even a Corey Good story, if you look at those stories, there is truth to those stories. I don't believe that either one of those gentlemen really did what they said they did. I'm pretty sure that those were taken from other people's stories. But people like Ghostwalker were absolutely real. Do you guys know about him?
No, fill us in. We got
Okay.
2.5 minutes.
Okay, I want everybody to go to YouTube and look up Ghost Walker and watch the interview with him and, oh gosh, I can't remember his name, one of the old time researchers. And then I have on my new TV channel that's going to be launching at the end of August on Make Contact TV, there will be an interview with Sean David Morton about his encounter with Ghostwalker. He was one of the original super soldiers. He was one of the main reasons I ever got involved in all these super soldier guys. And so it's an amazing story. You guys need to listen to that story and it will educate you immensely. Now, getting back to your question about who knows about this, there's only a few people in different programs, different alphabet agencies that actually know about the programs. And in some cases, they don't even know what that program really does. They get, like they'll say it'll be like a mind control thing with, foreign people involved in doing whatever they do. Little do they know that the foreign involvement is actually ETs. Okay. Because this is how they have to write it up to get funding and get through Congress and get through, funding and, passing whatever they need to do to get their money. So in many cases, it's kind of written on the wall, but sideways, so no one really gets what's going on. And it's very compartmentalized. Talk to Science Bob or talk to Rick Doty or talk to any of those guys. They'll tell you, hey, look, I had no idea what the next guy next to me was doing 90% of the time. They had no idea. They were all on different projects. And that's the way the government keeps it from, at least the United States government keeps it from being out there and people understanding what's happening. And I will say this, the remote viewing program that Colonel Burt did with Lynn Buchanan and those guys, McMonigal and the gang, it's far more advanced than people will ever understand.
And on that note, Lorien, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Why? Well, it's that time of the night where we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour because we are through halfway of this show tonight. And we have Lorien Fenton for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. And we're going to continue with Secret Space Program. I got a ton of questions. A ton of questions. We'll try and get yours in as well. So make sure you check it on out. We're coming right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
The brilliance of Dirty Filth.
It's gorgeous. I love it.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Hi, Lorien.
Yeah. We have a guy in the chat room right now who his name is Watch with Wayne, and he compares his sock collection to Dear Leaders. Yeah, he's a Dear Leader fan. I'm teasing.
We sing the company song when we go to work every day in the morning.
Yes, we sing. We start off every day at work with "All Hail Dear Leader." Yeah,
Yep, it's true.
you don't want to mention his name because you don't want to get blocked on social media. Good old Dear Leader. Anyways, enough politics. All right. I'm just going to quickly go and refill my water bottle because I am empty. So, Lorien, do you want to go in the green room, or Dirty Filth? Can you hang out until I get back?
I was planning
I'll
on
stay
rambling
here.
away,
I'm
if that's
fine.
okay.
All right. Well, put Dirty Filth back up so people can see his amazing cartoon. I'll be back in like a minute and a half here.
Ooh, I'll grab a couple extra cartoons to show off while we're sitting here. Ugh.
I'm drinking my Blue Tongue methylene blue.
Methylene. Too bad it wasn't sour blueberry candy of juice of some sort.
No, this stuff's really good for you. What it does is it coats your organs in a blue dye, and it permeates your bloodstream with oxygen. How do I explain it? It causes the electrons in your body to move a little quicker, and it just actually oxygenates your body 10 times better than normal.
I just use normal oxygen.
Normal oxygen. Love it. Okay, what do we got here? Hat Man, the Reptilian, the Blue Avian, the Gnome, the Light Bean. My Light Bean didn't look like that. The
He's
Ghost.
a little out of
I love
control.
it. These are great.
And then got a couple familiar guys here.
The Gray and the Sasquatch and the Mothman, the Man in Black, the Nightcrawler, the Goblin. I love it. Now, you
Goblin's from
draw them
Kentucky.
all the same all the time, right?
Oh, definitely. Actually,
Yeah.
I show this once in a while, but I have a cheat sheet. And this is what all the speech balloons look like. For when the
So they
characters
have their
actually
own
talk.
little. Cool. I like
So-
that.
So here's a good case in point. Here we have a government official in Roswell in 1947. But
Tinfoil.
clearly he's an alien.
Clearly. Okay, got it.
So it's because of the speech balloon you can find out who's who.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
I'm not sure where I came up with that, but I did. Worked out good.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm a very analytical person when it comes to stuff like that. And I really enjoy it when people put the time and energy into that detail.
Here's a Valentine's card I made.
Oh, that's really cute. So
Or-
are you going
or-
to make these into cards to sell at the conference?
Oh, definitely.
You should, how
Bought
many
some copies.
Valentine's cards do you have?
I think I made about 8.
Perfect.
This is my favorite.
It says Squish's eyes for you. I love it. That's so cute. I love that he's only got 2 teeth. I think that's very apropos.
It's the underbite that does it.
He looks like a screwed up boxer dog.
Jeez. Yes.
Filthy loves a good underbite.
Yeah, he's got a great one.
I mean, look at
love
him.
it.
Look at that guy.
What I want to know, Dirty, is how come he has feet and hands and it looks like he's wearing a night clothes or something, a one-piece night shirt.
Because here's the reason why I make sure I try to draw as many feet and hands as possible. A lot of artists that actually draw anything, they seem to neglect it. They try to hide feet and hands. And Bigfoot's got big feet, so he's got to have big feet sticking out. And
I like it.
And also because the flesh color of the hands and feet are sort of humanoid.
Yeah.
Is he wearing a suit or is it actually Bigfoot? I'll leave it up to the viewer.
All right, guys, we got 20 seconds before we come back. Thank you to Sandra and W. Decker, Area 53, for the super chats. I'm Area 51 now because I turned 51 this year, Lorien. So I said,
oh my God,
Dave Area 51. So,
oh God, that's too.
Here we go, everybody. Excuse me. Sorry. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. It's always a fun night when we get to broadcast the weird and strange to you, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Lorien Fenton will be back here for a final few minutes on the show until the top of the hour in just moments. But first, we want to remind you that our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We bring Lorien Fenton back here to talk about all things weird and strange with the Secret Space Program. And Lorien, one of the questions that I have about this is, I asked a friend of mine who used to work at a secret base somewhere north of Las Vegas. Okay. And I said, hypothetically speaking, I said, if these black triangles are ours, where do they park them? And he said the most profound thing to me. And he said, hypothetically speaking, what if they don't park? What if they don't land? Now, that could mean a couple of things. Number one, some super secret technology where they are fueled by nuclear energy or something like that, because we know aircraft carriers only refuel once every decade to 2 decades.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if these craft don't have to land, what do we do? But the other weird thing about it, I thought about that, is things crash. Technical snafus happen and things crash. And if one of these big black triangles that we see that's, could potentially carry 300-400 people on it to the moon and back or wherever it may go, that's a big skid mark on the Earth when it hits. Tell me about what you think.
Well, I have heard, let me think about this for 1 second. I got to think out how to word this. I have heard that you can actually park one of those things on a runway and nobody would even know it's there. They have invisibility, as far as I can tell. And the way I know this is real is because, and I heard this long before I saw my black triangle, that they could be parked on a runway and you'd never know it was there. That was the comment that was told to me. Now, years later, it's 2014 or 2011. I don't remember when I saw the big black triangle. I have to go look it up. But whatever day that was that I saw it, I'm looking up into the sky and it appears over my head. It decloaked literally right over my head as I'm looking into the sky. It didn't come at me. It didn't kind of come off in the distance and come around and slowly get down to my level. It didn't do any of those things that other people talk about. It literally just appeared, and it was huge, and it was right over my head. Well, a little, yeah, it was right here in front of me. So I'm looking at this thing, and all I can think of is it's wobbling and it's going to fall on us and kill us all because it's going to fall straight down. That's all I'm thinking at the time. But in the same time I'm thinking that, I'm screaming UFO, UFO, and I'm screaming and I'm pointing up. Okay. So I found out later that that's the plasma field that it has when it's coming out of warp or invisibility or whatever the heck it was doing. That's like a mirage around the ship. So it looked like it was waving and it wasn't actually moving at all. It was just that's what I perceived. So, and then it moved positions, turned out the lights, and then took off at a speed that was so fast I saw it leave, but I could not, it was gone in a blink, literally. So in answer to that question, what was it doing just appearing over my head? It had to have been there before it appeared, right? So obviously they have some kind of invisibility, and that proved it to me what my friend had said to me like a decade before then. It could be parked on a runway and you never even know it was there. So that's my opinion. I don't know.
Weird. Would they put something like that at a place like Area 51 where people are there to try and observe weird, strange things?
I would think yes. And I also know that Area 51 does have underground, lowering elevators for pretty large craft. The problem with the huge black triangles, and we're talking huge here, folks, the one I saw was either as big as a football field, or it was very small and right above my head by 200 feet or less. And it was probably 20 or 30 feet or maybe 50 or 100. But if it was a little higher in the sky, like I think it was, the thing was huge. I mean, it was gigantic. So I don't know if they have the capability, but again, I've heard something very strange. And this one was back in the 90s when I heard this. I heard, and I don't know if I can believe it or not because I have no other kind of story about this at all, but I've heard that they can change their size and dimension at will if they're an alien craft. From a giant 500-foot, looking like a metallic ship, into an orb 9 feet in dimension. And that's, and then just poof out. So they have the ability, and I believe this. The longer I'm into this field, I actually am starting to believe that can happen. I'm not sure it happens all the time or with different species or whatever, but there's got to be some species out there that's able to take a ship from, this organic metallic looking type of ship that they're driving around, and then suddenly say, oh, there's too many humans looking at us. We got to get out of here. Let's poof into an electrical ball and get out of here and go into another dimension. I absolutely believe that can happen now. If you'd asked me this 20 years ago, I would have said probably not. I don't think so. But now, yeah, I think it can happen.
To put an aircraft together like that, the skeptics will say thousands of people would have had to work on it. Thousands of people would be in the know. This can't be put together in your backyard shop where you got the old 67 Camaro that you're rebuilding.
Well, I got another story for you. There was
Please.
A guy named Ed, was it Fouché? I can't remember if it was Ed Fouché or if it was somebody else, but a good friend of mine that I'm no longer in contact with. But long story short, he met with a scientist from Area 51 before Bob Lazar came out to the public. It was known that there were scientists working out there, and it was known that they were working on something very peculiar. And you talk to anybody who was in engineering or science in Las Vegas in the 80s, and they will all tell you EG&G and the government and the 2 military bases there were all very three. There's Tonopah too. So they were into something very strange. Okay, so everybody knew that. My friend was working with Ted Gunderson at the time, the FBI whistleblower about mind control and all the women that were being used, like Kathy O'Brien and that whole group of women. Anyhow, he was living with Ted Gunderson, and this friend of his said, I have a relative that is a scientist at Area 51. He's just retired. He just found out he's got fast-acting cancer. They didn't call it fast-acting cancer, but the kind of cancer where you're going to die in 5 weeks or 4 weeks. And he wants to talk to you. Not to Ted, but to you. It's a long story as to why. But so my friend started going over and meeting him at a cafe once every few days until he died. And he spilled the beans on what was going on for him at Area 51. Now, one of these stories, I think I've told it on this show before, is very controversial, and I don't expect anybody to believe it. I'm not even sure I believe it. But after I spoke with Lynn Buchanan about his ET experiences and Clifford Stone about the ships that he supposedly went to the crash retrievals for, I put 2 and 2 together with all their stories, and this story is starting to make sense, and I'm starting to wonder if it isn't true. Here's the story as my friend heard it. The scientist goes out to work at Area 51. In the days he was going out there, there were mostly buses. The planes were driving them out, but only for the people that were working short-term daily trips. He was there for 5 days at a time and 2 days off kind of schedule. So he would go out in a bus and then they'd return him in a plane or, whatever. So the point is he gets off the bus. He's on the tarmac heading into his building because you're not allowed to go into any building that isn't yours to go into. And this colonel approaches him, or somebody a higher rank says, see that C-160 over there? You're getting on it. You're going to South America today. And he goes, why? He goes, don't ask questions. Just get on on the plane. So he gets on the plane. They land in a city outside of one of those major tourist areas in South America where they have the pyramid, the Aztec pyramids there. And
Yes.
the military down there had closed off the whole tourist thing that day, and he was taken out in a Jeep, and the place is closed down. There's no tourists there at all. It's just a big, huge empty field with an Aztec thing on it. And the guy drops him off in the Jeep, and he goes, wait here. Our guy will contact you. The next thing he knows, out of the jungle at the other end of the field walks a guy. Now, he says this is the most bizarre part about it. It's like 100 degrees. He's in shorts, right? The whole bit. And it's 100 degrees, and this guy walks out in a suit. He's 7 feet tall. He's wearing a black suit. He's got pale white skin that you can see the veins through, apparently. And he is obvious, his eyes are big, and he is obviously not a human. Okay. So he meets him in the middle of the field and says to him, and he's got a briefcase with him. It's one of those silver briefcases. And he says to the scientist, I'm here to teach you how to fly a UFO. And the guy's like, okay, sure, right, And he opens the briefcase and takes out this metallic, what he described as the scientist, a metallic organic loaf of bread. And it's kind of silver in color, and it's actually kind of moving a little. It's like he'd look at it, and he said he could tell it was kind of alive. It was kind of moving. So, so things lead to another thing, and I guess they talk for a while, who knows. And the alien takes that little loaf of bread thing and puts it out 100 feet in front of them, and he thinks it into a 10-foot wide ship. That's a perfect flying saucer ship. Okay. He thought it into that. Okay. Now, the scientist is pretty blown away at this point. And he asked the ET, what is it made out of? What element? He goes, it's not really an element. It's alive. You would consider it fungus. That's what it would be like on your planet. Fungus on your planet actually has the ability to communicate with other fungus, and it grows everywhere, and it expands, and it talks to itself, and it talks to other fungi, and it has the ability to communicate with you if you knew how to communicate with it. And the scientist guy was just literally blown away, apparently, from what my friend said. And now the alien takes that 10-foot chip, and he thinks it back into the loaf of bread. And then the scientist dude, he looks at him and says, now you're going to make it into a ship. Now the guy's, the scientist dude's like, oh, sure. So he's trying with his mind, he's trying to think this thing into a ship. And he actually gets it to kind of blow out into all this weird shape, but he gets it to kind of work, and he gets the feeling for it. And he asked the ET, why him? Why now? Why am I doing this? And he said, because in the future, we're going to give you this technology, and you guys are going to be able to make your own ships.
Oh, my.
So now, when I heard that story in the early 2000s, I think it was 1999 when I heard that story, I was like, okay, right, sure, okay, whatever. I just threw it in the back shelf. And then when I got to know the whole Bob Lazar story better, I realized that there were a couple of points in Bob's story where he said they had other scientists out there, but they all seemed to die a weird death, or they had died quickly after leaving their job. Because someone asked him at one point, have you ever talked to anybody else who ever worked out there? And he said, well, at one point we were kind of trying to find them, but they all seem to be dead. And I thought, now that's interesting, because that's exactly what happened to this guy. And the reason this scientist found out that they were actually killing other scientists out there after they get done with their tour was because of the wives of the scientist. They somehow found, a couple of the wives found each other and became friends. And then they said, oh, my husband retired and he died, and my husband retired and he died. And then they went, wait a minute, what did he die from? Oh, cancer, like pancreatic, so bad cancer that he was gone in 4 weeks. And they were like, my husband died of the same thing. And how is it that all these retired scientists out of Area 51 are all dying within 2 months of leaving their job? Why is that? So who knows? I mean, there's, you guys, and here's another thing that people don't understand, Dave, and I really got to touch upon this. How much time do we have?
We have 7 minutes.
Okay. What people don't understand is that in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, it was deadly to talk about this stuff. I mean, you can talk about it now, and it's kind of like nobody really believes you, or they don't care, or they're so involved with what they're doing that they brush it off. They don't take out the little tiny, tiny pieces of correlating stories that make sense, as a puzzle piece. And I've been at this since I was 13 years old. I mean, seriously, I started interviewing my friends about ET and talking about paranormal when I was like 13. And I was literally interviewing people, not realizing what I was doing by the time I was 16. So I had been listening to stories about ET. I mean, my uncle was one of my first interviews, my grandmother, my dad. I mean, it's like, what happened? Did the ship come down? I was like doing MUFON questions before I even knew about MUFON, right? And so what was happening back then is people were being killed over divulging this information. And then what they started doing is, after they got to a point where they were killing people and people were catching on to the fact that they were, whoever they is, whoever the MJ-12 or the CIA or, God knows who's running the show here, started killing people. People like Dan Burris survived, but they did a mind wipe on him. They did the whole Stan Romanek, pedophilia thing on him. They did it to the guy, his predecessor, about the girl in the hot tub, and he ended up in prison. I mean, what they started doing was really sad. They started making all the people that were actually telling the truth at the time into, pariahs of society and getting rid of them, seriously, big time. And that worked for a while, but then everybody started realizing, I know this guy. He would never do something like that. And why would you want to keep him tied up in court, not being able to speak at a conference for 5 years waiting for a court date? That's not normal. That doesn't happen with the normal guy. It's usually within 6 months to a year. They were doing exactly like Stan and to these other people what they're doing to the J6ers. Not that I want to get involved in politics right now, but they would like take
Yeah,
them and put them in prison and then just leave them and throw away the key and say, too bad. Well, if we feel like letting you out, we will, and they're doing the same thing with people's reputation in the UFO community. Now, luckily, I noticed a big change about 2014 or 15. Things really got to the point where I think the intelligence agencies and the military intelligence agencies said, you know what? We can't control this anymore. There's too many people involved in it. So what we'll do is we'll throw in a bunch of speakers that are liars, and just kind of mess up the community that way. We'll create cults. We'll do all this stuff. We'll throw in a lot of lies. Nobody will really know the truth. And we'll just go about it that way. And, if somebody happens to be really hitting the nail on the head, we'll let them know that we don't appreciate them, telling their tale.
2 minutes or about 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you, Lorien. But for you, we think that more UFO news is going to come out, and I'm still not sure if it will or not. But if it does come out, is this another way to keep the cover up of the SSP, the Secret Space Program?
Oh, absolutely.
Or will that come out as well?
No, that the secret space program is never going to be divulged. Okay. Now I'm gonna say this, and I want everybody to listen to me very carefully. There is no way in hell's snowballs that disclosure, the way everybody wants it to happen, is going to happen. I've already been told that it's going to take 20 years from the beginning of the program, and that was 2017 when Tom DeLonge did that first little video. So 2017, 2027, 2037, maybe they'll be a little ahead of schedule. My guess is maybe 2032, maybe 2030, if we're lucky. We're going to get some kind of disclosure, but there are many, many reasons why this is never going to go beyond just, the Senate heard about it. It's probably real. ETs exist and they do fly around the military. That's about all we're going to get for now.
Right.
And I can bet my farm on that one.
I would bet your farm on that one too. I would totally risk your stuff for that because I don't think you'd ever lose it. Is that disappointing to even say, though, to have it roll off your tongue?
It is. It is, because I'll tell you what, the day that Bob Bigelow went on 60 Minutes years ago, I think it was it 16 or 17, whatever. And I thought to myself, oh my God, he's on here saying ETs exist and we're all among them. And, we're a big happy family, I thought, oh, this is it. This is disclosure. This is the day it happens, right? And sure enough, the next day, it's like it never happened.
Crickets. I'm still surprised over that because, I really thought 60 Minutes would follow up on something that powerful that he said.
You'd think so.
Right. And they never did. So. They never did. And I'm surprised media outlets didn't pick up on that. I know George Knapp did. Okay. Because he's right there in Las Vegas, but I'm really surprised that never happened.
Yes.
It was the most blatant and obvious piece of disclosure I think we've ever had. And I encourage anybody to go to 60 Minutes on YouTube and pull up Robert Bigelow or Bob Bigelow UFOs on there and watch what he says. He is laughing at America at how blind the United States public is when he literally says they're already here. You don't have to
That's
go to
right.
space. They're already here. You know, and yet we didn't pay attention, and we still don't. Lorien,
right.
much love to you for coming on the show tonight. I greatly appreciate every time you do. Our conversations are always so, so awesome. And we'll do it again soon.
We will. It'll be fun.
Always is. Lorien Fenton is one of my favorites in this field. And next, another favorite, Steve Stockton from Tales Untold. Jackie Harmon will be here for the Cryptid Report. Stick around. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
You were awesome, Lorien. Thank you.
Thank you. I really had a good time. I ran home and now I've got to get back to work online from the office from home. So anyhow,
I love you.
sweetie. I'm
Love
so
you.
sorry that your Oilers lost. But next year we'll get them next year.
Stock it up already. We're
Yeah,
stocking up
you
already.
got it.
All right,
Okay,
my friend.
darling. Good night.
Love. Bye-bye. Lorien Fenton, everybody. I love her. Nice hat, Jax. Nice hat. I'll be right back, guys. back. Thank you tonight to Michael, Susan, W. Decker, Area 53, and Sandra for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. And don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. We like you looking good in our stuff, including the brand new I Am Pam t-shirts, because we love those around here. All right, let's get ready to go. Hi, Speedy Romans. All right, let's kick off hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. This show is flying on by. Love it when it does that. It means we're having a good one. Getting all the woo to you. That's what we love to do. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for being here with us. This is Spaced Out Radio, and we want to remind all of you. What do we want to remind you? Oh, yeah. Well, let's start off by saying hello to every listener listening to us on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every podcast network. You can download it for free. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, let's say hello to Steve Stockton.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Helen Keller, the remarkable author, political activist, and lecturer who defied all odds to achieve greatness despite her being deaf and blind, remains a source of endless inspiration. Yet, even in her home state of Alabama, her legacy holds a haunting quality. The very locations that bore witness to her incredible life, from her birthplace in Tuscumbia to the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind, where she first learned to communicate, are now said to harbor her ethereal presence. The rumored sightings of Helen Keller's ghost are not those of a vengeful and restless spirit, but instead of a gentle soul, eternally tethered to the places that molded her into who she was. At her meticulously preserved birthplace, Ivy Green, visitors and staff alike have reported a multitude of unexplained occurrences. The sound of soft footsteps can be heard echoing through the ancient halls, even when the house stands empty. Suddenly, the sweet aroma of honeysuckle, Helen's most beloved scent, wafts through the air without warning. And some have even claimed to feel a delicate hand brush against theirs, a brief touch as ephemeral as a distant memory. The Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind holds countless stories within its walls, but perhaps the most captivating is that of Helen Keller. It was here, in her youth, that she first learned to communicate, her once silent world bursting into life under the patient guidance of her devoted teacher, Anne Sullivan. Whispers of a ghostly figure dressed in period clothing have been heard wandering the halls, her laughter a distant echo from another time. Some have even claimed to catch a glimpse of her spectral form near the well pump, the very spot where she experienced her famous breakthrough, understanding the meaning behind the word water as it flowed over her hand. The Institute seems to hold on to the echoes of the past, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that's both haunting and beautiful. The ghostly figures that appear are not met with fear, but rather with a sense of solace and reassurance. They serve as a reminder of Helen's unyielding spirit and her strong ties to the locations where she pushed past boundaries and embraced all that life had to offer. Some speculate that Helen's essence remains present, not out of sorrow or remorse, but rather out of an unwavering affection for the places that aided her remarkable voyage. The apparitions seem to glow with a warm light, as if they are illuminated by an inner fire burning with determination and resilience. Their presence is both soothing and awe-inspiring, a testament to the enduring legacy of Helen's journey. In a poignant account of one student's struggles at the Institute, a young girl with impaired vision felt lost and alone as she attempted to adapt to her new surroundings. Overwhelmed with emotion, she wandered the grounds late one night, seeking solace from the quiet darkness. As she sat by the well pump, tears streaming down her face, she suddenly felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. Turning, she saw a figure standing beside her, a young girl with sparkling eyes and a kind smile. The mysterious girl disappeared just as quickly as she had arrived, but the student was left with an indescribable feeling of peace and renewed determination to persevere through her challenges. The moon cast a soft glow over the scene, adding ethereal quality to the encounter that the student would never forget. Whether these experiences are products of overactive imaginations or genuine encounters with the ethereal realm, one thing is certain. They serve as a haunting reminder of Helen Keller's enduring legacy. The stories of ghostly apparitions, whispered voices, and unexplained phenomena only add to the mystique surrounding her life. Far from diminishing her accomplishments, these eerie encounters add another layer of intrigue to her story, transforming her from a mere historical figure into a timeless presence. It is as if she has become a part of the very fabric of the places where she once taught the world that even in darkness there is always light. Her spirit lives on, forever entwined with those who seek to uncover the secrets of her remarkable journey.
Thank you, Steve Stockton from Tales Untold, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, and you get them all there for free. Right like that. All right. We say hello to Jax here for the Crypted Report. Jax, I got to tell you, I went back to my area on Sunday.
You did?
I did.
And
our gift that we left back for the staff, it was still there.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we ended up after that going to our other Sasquatch site.
Yeah.
2 new prints.
Oh,
About
that's good.
200 feet apart. All right. But 2 new prints. Both were big. One looked to be around 19 inches. I got to go back there. Not this weekend because I'm out of town. But the following weekend, we got to see if we can measure them and do all sorts of stuff. Wasn't prepared for it. Just wanted to check it on out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it always happens when you're not prepared.
Of course.
Always happens.
You got to have always have some kind of small gadget thing on your phone or something that measures or, yeah.
Dumb.
I think there's an app that does that. You can measure things with an app.
I'd have to check that out.
I don't know what it's called, but I've heard about it.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yes.
You like my hat tonight?
I do. What does it say?
Just a small town girl.
Oh, yes.
This hat, I actually wore this tonight because this is actually the hat that I wore when we were at Mount Adams. And I thought I would bring it back and share some more of the story and some other things that we have recently found out, like going through audio. But I thought maybe wearing the hat would bring some more energy.
I was talking to Lorien Fenton at the beginning of tonight's show about you and Lee.
Oh,
and I said, Lorien, you have to get Lee and Jackie to your conference next year because of this experience about the Bigfoot molesting you. And then
True.
You having some missing time the following night. That's still tripping me out. That is
okay.
still tripping me out.
Well, let me just, that's amazing that you would even bring that up, because that's actually what I was going to talk to you about tonight. Because lo and behold, when we went back, now you got to remember now, this has been like, what, 2.5 weeks or so, almost 3 weeks now since we've been there. Okay. So I guess now would be like 2.5. So it's really still fresh, right? And so we've been going through audio, video, everything you can imagine. Now, when we were trying to get our show ready, we were skipping like 30 seconds, trying to get to this certain part. Now, we've realized now that we've listened to like, 100 hours, literally. I know it's not that many, but it feels like it, of audio, that we have now come to realize that we have, in fact, missing time and things that happened that we personally did that Lee and I don't even remember doing.
Okay, you got to fill us in on this.
Okay. So when I first told you guys the story, and I know you had Lee on here few last week or whenever it was, and so we had both said that there was a period of time. Okay, so if you guys haven't heard the story yet, Lee and I were at Mount Adams, and I'm sure most of you guys have heard by now, but if not, that's where we were at camping. We were there specifically, looking for Bigfoot and researching and the whole bit. Okay, so let me get right into this. Okay, so basically, at one point, we think we see something at the end of the road. We walk down, and it is, in fact, looks like, a very large human, which we assume is, a Bigfoot. So we walk down there waiting to see. And it fades out and it squats down, stands up the whole bit. And so we end up walking back because it eventually fades out. Well, when we get back, and we finally decide, like, well, Lee's exhausted from the day and he wants to go lay down. Well, I'm not going to hang out by myself. So we get back in the tensile, which is the floating tent, which I'm never been in one before. And I'm anxiety filled to the max getting in this thing. We thought time wise, it was probably about maybe 2 or 3 minutes max after getting in the tent that we hear the first tree or massive log, whatever it was, that was thrown into our camp. And Lee starts actually laughing after the whole thing gets thrown into camp. And he's like, it waits till we get in the tent and go to bed before this thing, comes into camp. And so, and that's fine. That wasn't too far off of what we thought. Well, then we had explained too that about 5 minutes later, we heard no footsteps or anything come near the tent. All of a sudden, something smacks, like smack, like, I mean, as hard as you can imagine. And we actually have this on our second show. If you guys want to go and listen to that, you can watch that and listen to that. And it's absolutely insane how loud it is. So Lee and I thought that was about 5 minutes. Okay, we're guesstimating. Now you got to remember, there's two people here telling the same story. We thought it was from the log to the slap on this strap, max 5 minutes. When we listened to audio, it was an hour. We were tripping out. We're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, because it was like one happened, 5 minutes later, the next one happened. And as we're listening to it, we realize, no, it's not 5 minutes later. It's like an hour later. And so we're like, okay, well, that's weird, because we thought it went basically like tree being thrown in camp. 5 minutes later, strap being hit. Maybe 5 minutes later, the hands rubbing the tent. So we're, of course, sitting there and we're going over this audio. And lo and behold, again, no, it is not 5 minutes later from the slap to the rub. It's hours later. And so it's very weird because I remember it and Lee remembers it. So, like, bang, 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 this is what happened. After the rub, I go into full blown panic attack mode. Like, this is it. I'm done. I don't need this crap. Pack it up. We're out of here. And in fact, that is not the case. It was hours and hours later. And at some point during the night, we start talking and we have a full blown 30-minute conversation and we're laughing. We're laughing, we're joking with each other. Lee and I have no memory of this. Zero at all. Like I'm sitting there like, when did we do that? And he goes, I don't remember doing that at all. And I'm like, I don't remember that at all. Like, why would we do that? Because the entire night I was awake, never went to sleep. And he did sleep. He'd go off and on sleeping, but I could hear them walking around as if they were in a circle around our camp. You could hear things being like touched in the audio. You can hear things being banged on, picked up, moved, slapped. There's at this one point, two things happen where it's like bam, and then another bam, like right after. We never even heard it. Never heard it. And it sounds like it's right next to us. You can hear tree knocks like it's hitting us in the head, you know? And we're just listening to this, like our mouths are just dropped open, like, what? Like, what is happening right now?
And
It's
you
been
have no
a trip.
recollection of this.
No, not at all. Now, you got to understand, okay, so Lee went to sleep pretty fast, and all night long, I kept poking him and saying, Lee, you got to wake up. Wake up. There's activity going on. I hear tree knocks, whoops, chatter, walking, things are being messed with. And he goes, I don't know why I'm like so exhausted. I just can't, I got to go to sleep. And I just kept poking him and waking him. And then it's just the weirdest thing is like our memory is exactly the same, like identical, like literally to a T identical of this happened 5 minutes later, this happened 5 minutes later, this happened, and then I had this, and then I felt that, and it's like we are identical, and it's not like we're feeding off of each other. This is literally how we remember telling the story the next morning. And now we're talking to each other and going, what's going on? When did this happen? Did we have lost time? I mean, what, what is it? And when I was listening to Lorien talk about like, even how like, Travis Walton thought he was somewhere for a certain amount of time, but yet it was this amount of time. Well, that's kind of how we're feeling a little messed with because listening to the audio is telling you the story. Like you're listening to it, like we're listening to it from the second we went to bed all the way to about 6:30 in the morning, nonstop. It never stops. And going back now and re-listening to that, it's like, wait a minute, hold the phone. Like, I don't remember things happening like that. And he's like, yeah, no, me neither. And so it's been a bit of a like a little bit of a mind twist for us to go back and realize it's like there's an hour gap between this and this, okay? And then there's another about maybe 2 or 3 hours before the actual rub happened. Well, I kind of joked around on the show about how at one point, like I literally had to pee, and so like I'm like I gotta pee and I gotta throw this out, at the tent. And we remember him like opening the tent. Now Now, in the beginning of the audio, when we get in the tent, when he does the zipper, it is so loud on the audio. Now, when we get out of the tent in the morning, you can hear that zipper like it's like the microphone's right up against this zipper. Well, during the night when he unzips it and throws that out of the tent, we can't find that yet. So we don't know if like maybe by accident we skipped it somehow or what's going on, but we have this full-blown 30-minute conversation as if nothing is going on around us. We're talking, we're laughing, we're goofing off, and we're just like dumbfounded, like, when did that happen? We don't remember any of this happening. It is the strangest feeling listening to it. But the audio, I'm telling you guys, we have caught the most activity. Now, we originally thought when we got up in the morning, nothing's been messed with. We looked around, and we were mainly concerned more because Lee has a huge amount of equipment, cameras, and tripods, and you name it, like everywhere. Really nice, very expensive equipment that I'm sure he doesn't want broken. So when he gets up and I get up and we're looking around, we're checking everything. He's checking the equipment and the camera. Nothing looks like it's been touched. Nothing's been messed with that we know of. But when now you go back and now we listen, now as we're listening to the audio, it sounds like every single thing we have is being touched, is being inspected, is being picked up, looked at, put down, whatever. But it is nonstop the entire night. It never leaves until probably, I would say, maybe if I had to take a stab guess, maybe 6:30 in the morning when things finally started to quiet down. But it never stops. They decided to come in, and you can tell there's multiple.
Oh
They're
my.
just rounding us the whole night. And so yeah, it's been a little bit of a shock for us because we never expected to go back and listen and have that much activity or stuff being touched or any of that. So yeah, it's been a real shock to us. So we're going to share a lot of that stuff too. We want to share as much as we can and explain what's going on, but it's gonna blow your mind when you hear it. It sure has us.
I'm almost a little freaked out for you. I'm
Yeah.
almost I'm almost a little freaked out for you. Because the fact that you have no recall of this, number
Mm-hmm.
one, but number two, the fact that all of this is happening while you guys are blanked out, that is just terrifying.
It is.
Terrifying.
It
And the
is.
fact that you have the evidence that this happened while you're going through something
Yeah.
very obtuse,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't. 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4 here. Jackie, we're going to continue with your story on the Crypted Out Radio,
Okay.
and we're going to continue with this amazing story. This one just bugs me. It bugs me big time. Jackie Harmon on Spaced Out Radio's Cryptid Report. We have her till the top of the hour. We'll be right back, everybody.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Oh, I love that song. So on Saturday night, we did a ghost tour.
Yeah. How'd it go?
And my favorite barn had been so quiet for me. So quiet for me. So I walk my tourists down to the far end of the barn, and I take a light up cat ball and I rolled it along the ground, and it went to about the halfway point of the barn. About there. And all of a sudden, like we're in pitch darkness, a little bit of light coming on. Can you turn the light on, please? Bang. Light turns on. And it kept continuing. Like it would wait for the light to go off and then something would touch it again and the light would go back on. Like whatever it was having fun with it. So me and one of our tourists, I said, come with me. Let's walk down there. She's holding a K2 meter. I'm like, are you having fun? Turn the light on. Bang. I said, can our friend here laugh and say hello to you? Bang. Full red on the K2 meter. Can you turn the light back on the ball? Bang. Like it was just like back and forth.
Wow.
And we're about 5 feet away from the ball because you don't want to be too close.
Yeah.
You know? And this thing was just like bang, 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 bang. It was
Wow.
awesome. Yeah.
That's really cool. Plus, it makes for a really fun night, too.
Oh, yeah. It gives them an experience that they go and brag about, right? That's what I love that. I love that for them. I really do. I really love it for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun when that stuff happens.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun when that happens.
Uh-huh.
A lot of fun. So it's always a good time. Mm-hmm. Where am I here? Where am I? All right. We're about halfway through. About halfway through. Hi, Lee. How are you? I know you're listening.
He'll be watching tomorrow while he's on either on his way to work or at work. He's not feeling very good right now. But I don't know if you remember. I know I talked to you about this already, but I don't know if anybody else on here heard it already. But it's really strange because the first time I came on and I was telling you about our weekend, things were so strange that first night.
Yeah.
That I didn't want to stay there. And that's a really weird situation for me because normally I'm like, this is it, hot spot, we're staying. But crap really got weird and beyond uncomfortable for me. And so I needed to, go find a new location and kind of get like a, like a restart on the weekend because I knew if I stayed there, it was going to be a lot for me to, stay in that location another night. So if you remember right, we went closer to the mountains so we could have a better view.
Yep.
And when we actually, we ended up putting up the second tent. We originally had that up for like changing and stuff like that. And I told him that I had had enough of the tensile being rubbed under the tent was a bit much for me. I'll explain that a little bit more for people on here who might have missed that. But so we ended up laying down. Probably it was getting close to evening time, and we were both just wiped out. And I had stayed up the night before, so I'd been up the whole night before, or actually the whole day before, the whole night before, and now the whole day. So I was exhausted. And so it was I would say it was probably about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock when we finally lay down in that tent. Lee passed out. Like I'm convinced that he could sleep on a rock. And so I slept for a little while and I remember waking up.
Hold that thought because we do have to go here. Thank you tonight to Michael, Susan, W. Decker, Area 53, and Sandra for the super chats. Greatly appreciate you coming on in and helping us out with a great super chat and support. And here we go, everybody. Like 5 seconds. right, let's kick off the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in. And we are talking Sasquatch and aliens with Jackie Harmon on the Crypted Report. This amazing story that's been continuing for the last couple of weeks from their tour to Mount Adams. That's Jackie and Lee Strauss to Mount Adams and the scary crap that happened there. Wow. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Jackie, we're going to continue with your story here. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So like I said, this is the second night, and we had already changed this location, and so I'd slept probably a few hours, and I remember waking up, and it was like about 11 o'clock, and now I just feel like I am completely wide awake. And it's weird when you go from completely exhausted to now you just feel like something's got your attention, something's around you, some energy's changed, something's going on. And I didn't quite know what. I just sort of laid there, and I'm just sort of like staring at the top of the tent. And about an hour or so of laying there, this intense light comes into, like, from the top of the tent in, and it was like the brightest insane light out of nowhere. It felt like, like one of those spotlights you see in like a parking lot, but yeah, they turned it upside down, and now they're shining it in the top of your tent. And I remember just laying there thinking, like, what in the world is that? Like, where'd that come from? And so I'm trying to poke Lee, and I'm like, hey, wake up, like, what is that? And just as I'm about to get him to wake up, it just goes boom, gone. And it goes from like the brightest light to just darkness. And I just remember laying there thinking, like what in the world could have done that? That's the strangest thing I've ever seen. I've never had an experience like that before. And I thought, I'm going to lay here and see if it happens again, right? Because I'm like, what? Like, that makes no sense to me. My brain doesn't understand that kind of stuff. And so I just remember, like, I keep poking at him, going, hey, this light. And, it just disappeared. I'm trying to explain it. And I remember him saying to me, like, I can't wake up. It's like I have narcolepsy. And I'm like, what is the matter with you? It's like somebody drugged you. And he just goes right back to sleep. And I remember laying there staring at that tent top. And the shape of it was like a circus tent. It had like the octagon look to it. And all of a sudden, it to me, I thought it had been 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm wide awake and I'm wired now from this first light. And I'm like, if that thing comes back, I'm getting out of this tent. I want to know what that is. And like I said, 5 minutes later, boom, here comes that light again. And it is insane. It's bright. It's the whole tent's filled up with light. And you can tell it's just this insanely bright light, like from above us. And so, of course, I'm poking him again. Lee, get up, it's back. And I said, okay, so I'm the first time it happened, I asked him, what time is it? And he tells me 12:15. So here it is. I'm thinking it's 5 minutes later. I poke him again and I go, hey, it's back. Look at it. And as soon as he goes to look at it, boom, gone, darkness again. And I said, I want to know what time it is. I want to stamp this time. Okay. And he goes, it's 5 a.m. And I'm like, wait, what? There's no way it's 5 a.m. I just asked you 5 minutes ago. It was 12:15. And he's like, well, it's 5. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm so confused. And it's still dark, pitch dark. Like, you can see like a tiny bit of like moonlight off in the distance, but like not like this. This was insane. So now I'm even more confused because I'm thinking it's 5 minutes and now you're telling me it's 5 hours. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I've never dealt with lost time or anything even remotely like that before. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. So I'm still trying to wrap my own brain around that one. But now that we've gone back and we've listened to audio, we're both now wondering, are we dealing with 2 nights of something messing with us? Either lost time? Is it mind speak? Are they messing with us? Like 1 minute we know they're there and we hear, a tree being thrown in camp or tents being hit. I thought it'd been maybe 10, 15 minutes and I'm having a full blown panic attack. And Lee and I specifically remember having a full blown conversation about me having that panic attack and me saying, I want to go home. We're out of here. And he's trying to console me, and you never hear that. You hear hours later, me and Lee are laying there talking, laughing, goofing off like as if nothing's going on. And we're both just like, what is happening? Are we insane? What what in the world are we listening to right now? It is the strangest thing. And so now we're both trying to still wrap our brains around like what exactly happened to make us both think this is what happened in this time frame, and yet both nights it's completely different time frame than what we remember. We don't know how to make sense of it.
The thing that's confusing me about it is just the idea that you guys were there, you were conscious,
Hmm.
you guys were having conversation.
Hmm.
I mean, that is something that you guys need to be remembering.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
something like if you're having a chat full of laughter, unless
Hmm.
you've been drinking, you're
Nope.
going to remember that. But I know
We
you're
don't
not.
drink. Nope, neither one of us were drinking, smoking, nothing. I mean, nothing. I am, 100% just I mean, you saw me, like I barely do anything. I don't drink. I'm just not a drinker. And, it's just a weird situation because we walked away from this experience with, and I told you guys I would explain this to the people who haven't heard this, and I'm sure most people have already. But when I'm talking about this Bigfoot coming in and rubbing the tent, um, it stood there next to our tent and put its whole arm underneath this floating tent, 4 feet above the ground. Okay, that I'm in the middle and Lee's next to it's like this, like a triangle, okay, and it floats off the ground and it's tied to 3 trees, and I'm smack in the middle, and it put its hand or arm all the way underneath us and grabbed went all the way up my body. It started at the bottom of my foot, literally, like it knew exactly where my leg was, and it went like it would glide up my body, but I could feel it put its fingers around me and squeeze me all the way. And it went up my legs. It touched my butt, my back, I mean, at one point it even touched my boob. And I mean, that's creepy. Okay. It
Honk,
hit
honk.
my neck and my face. It scared me. And after this happened is when I full blown had an anxiety attack. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm done.
Do you wish you would have stayed there another night? Looking back,
If I
because I want to. In my situation, let me explain that question.
Yeah.
In my situation, we knew that there was one about 20 yards from us in the trees.
Mhm.
Now, safety says leave.
Yeah.
Everything in your head says leave.
Yeah.
But the researcher in me, the hindsight 2020 person in me,
Mhm.
says this is the moment you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Why have you not gone into the trees?
Right?
But because you look at the TV shows, granted, I know it's TV.
Mhm.
There's some pretty brave people out there,
Mhm.
okay? And I looking back, I wish I would have taken a night vision or my FLIR.
Yeah.
I would have walked in there, but I didn't.
Well, we actually had a FLIR, and we actually show that part of the time we walked down the road. I think it was episode 2 on Element 115, where you can watch us. We talk about it and we walk down there. And, and the one thing that you'll notice in the entire, all the video of watching us is this is how I normally am. I am as calm as anyone, like us talking right now. Okay. Um, I grew up doing this. This is something I'm very comfortable with. Nothing has ever harmed me. I have never felt scared or anxiety to the point of what I felt this particular night. Now, if it hadn't touched me, why I was in a tent where I was already horribly like anxiety filled from being in this tent. I wasn't comfortable to begin with. And if you go back and you listen to the audio, you hear me talk about how I'm not comfortable with this tent. I'm already anxiety filled from being in here. I don't like being in things off the ground. I hadn't even had a minute to adjust to that. So things just went like from this to this in a flat second. And for me, and Lee and I have talked about this many times, and I know he regrets wanting to go get in the tent and go to sleep the way he did. And I keep telling him, don't feel bad about it. It is what it is. It happened. We had stuff happen, and this is, the story of what we really went through. Um, what I normally do is I stay up all night. I'll sleep, maybe in the morning, a little while, maybe take a nap in the afternoon, but I normally stay up the entire night. Now, if we had done that the first night, we may not have had, very much happen. I don't know. But for some weird reason, I agreed to go. And I thought, well, I'm not going to stay out here by myself. So I do regret not like, convincing him like, hey, um, maybe if we stay, you can stay up all night and then I'll feel comfortable staying. But I know for a fact I would have never gotten back in that tent and I would not have been able to sleep, not 1 minute during the night. So much happened that night that I'll never forget it. Lee will never forget it. It'll be with us literally till the day we take our last breath on earth. It's probably one of the most frightening things I've ever lived through. And yet we're still planning on getting back out there as soon as possible. Like 100%, I'm ready to go back. Now that I'm home, we've talked about it. We've we try very hard to like help each other like go through it and talk about it and say like, okay, he'll say, all right, let's do this differently, and I'll say, yeah, let's do that differently, and we agree like if we do go back, it's going to be a very different scenario. But yeah, I mean, there is a part of me that does regret not staying. But in that moment, I was so freaked out, Dave, that
Yes.
I couldn't endure it another minute. I couldn't get that crap packed up fast enough and get out of there that day. I was so uncomfortable and I felt so like I don't even know what the right word is. It's like I just felt like it had beyond crossed the line with me with what it did. And, I don't even remember how long exactly it was that it held its hand underneath me, but feeling that gigantic hand up and down my body. And I'm not even joking, you guys, it's been 2.5 weeks. And I still have bruises up and down the left side of my body. I even shared it the other day on the show. And I still look at those bruises every single day. And that brings that memory right back to me of like laying there, feeling that, and the hand alone of how strong, how huge it was, the strength behind that. It's not something fun to even think about, but to live through it, it was frightening. it terrified me in that moment. And I'm not ashamed to say, like, I had a full-blown flippin' panic attack after it happened, and I was done. I was like, "That's it. I'm done. Like, I'm out of here. I mean, I'll do it. I'll continue to look for Bigfoot for the rest of my life, but I was done in that location right then and there."
Would you go back?
Absolutely. I'm planning on going back. Yeah. I'm not gonna stay in that tent, but yeah, I'm going back. 100%.
Merle and I want to go, and little Marky Spender, our forest bodyguard, wants to go. We just gotta
Absolutely.
see. We just have to see if Samantha will come with us, and if we
Oh,
can get our team together, we're going to come film it.
100%. I say, let's do it. Let's plan it. Let's get this set up. The sooner the better, because this is the most activity. And you guys, I'm not joking you when I say I've been doing this for 50 years. I'm 54 years old. I started at the age of 4. Um, I have been everywhere you can imagine. Everywhere. I've been all over Washington, California, every state you can imagine, people look for Bigfoot. I've traveled all over this country. I've even been to Alaska. Um, I have never, in all the years of researching and looking, have I ever seen this much activity in one location. It's mind blowing. It really is absolutely mind blowing.
The problem with it is if you go back,
Hmm.
the wondering is whether or not it would happen again. Because like I can tell you, like with our connection
Yeah.
last year where we had the alien and the UFO in the forest,
Hmm.
we were like, okay, well, let's see if we could make that happen again. We couldn't. We
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's sad.
I mean, I'm not going to say there's 100% chance it's going to happen or happen the same way it happened for us. But I would have to say, I believe there's a really good chance of having insane amount of activity with what we had. I do know this. Okay, I grew up and being told that um they remember you. They remember your smell. They remember how you look. They remember specific things about you, even if you bring certain things. It could be your car, it could be anything. And they're highly intelligent. And anyone out there who does this knows, like, any interaction you have with them, and this made me even understand it even further, is just how insanely intelligent they really truly are. Because the entire night, I could hear them talking. They were having full-blown chatter conversations for hours, and I'd never heard that like that before. I've heard it here, a little bit there, where you hear, like, you think, you like, "Oh, what was that? What was that?" But this was like they're 10 feet away from us, or a foot, or 10 inches, or 1 inch. I mean, they were surrounding us. And it was a lot. You can tell when you're listening to the audio, it's almost like they made us a large circle, and they walked around, and they would stop, and they would look, and they would literally touch the microphone. They would grunt and growl in the microphone. They would pick things up and breathe and hit things. It, I mean, you guys, I really honestly can't even make you understand how
We
insane the amount of
we only
activity was.
sorry to cut you off. We only have
It's
about
okay.
2 weeks to go. Were you surprised that they weren't afraid of the technology? Because we've heard so many times before that
Mhm.
that Bigfoot does not like technology and will stay away from trail cams, stay away from microphones. And yet here you
Yeah.
were getting all of this incredible audio, and I'm not sure the
Oh,
video, but audio for sure.
yeah. Well, it's funny that you would say that, because I even said to Lee, I go, I'll be sick if tomorrow morning we wake up and there's no audio. Like, they decided to turn something off. Okay, trail cams, cameras. I mean, all of it. We were just like, okay, if we wake up and there's no evidence after listening to it all night long, okay, they're doing something to change it. Now, we did have them, you can physically hear them like opening and taking, clicking on things like trail cams, like turning them off. But the audio never shut off. It stayed going all night long, and we got every bit of it.
And on that note, Jackie Harmon, I want to do this with you.
Oh,
I do.
I can't wait, Dave.
I really want to do this with you and Lee, and bring my team down and come and hang out with you. I'm already
Absolutely.
trying to figure out dates right now, because.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going in a tent. Not going in.
No, me neither.
I don't blame you.
No, thank you. Let's burn it.
Right? Yeah. Don't tell Lee though. Don't tell Lee.
He already knows I hate it. He knows I'm never going in it again. He's sad.
I hear you. On that note, Jackie, we got to wrap things up. Thank you for a wonderful personalized cryptid report.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much for that. We'll talk to you next week. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys. There you go.
I'm going to leave that "there you go" in there. I'm going to leave that in there. Like Jackie Harmon. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. We're done. Get the fuck out of here. Jack says we're done. Get the hell out.
We're done.
Get the hell out of my studio. Yeah.
Oh.
I got to get you guys up here too. I got to show you these areas.
Oh my God, we would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been up there in years, but I've got a passport. I've got a passport card. I can get in anywhere. Yeah. We cannot flip and wait to get back to this location, and we cannot wait for you guys to come with us. You're going to be mind blown. This place is insane. There's evidence everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we were only there minutes, literally minutes, when we already were walking down trails and finding footprints. And I mean, it's just nuts. This place is just hopping. We felt like we were smack in like their living room. We kept saying that.
Where was the closest people to you, in your opinion?
We never saw any. The only time we ever saw anybody was when we were driving, and that was probably miles away from us because no one was camping near us. We walked all around. You couldn't hear a soul. One time when we were walking around, you could hear a guy far off, like riding like a quad out somewhere. And that was the only time I think we ever really saw anybody or heard anybody. But seeing people, um, we never saw anybody. So we don't know. We don't know how far people were, but they were nowhere near us. You couldn't hear a thing, none of it. Yeah, it was interesting. Because I always thought, I guess thinking going there, I always thought like, oh, it's like a camping place. Okay, there's going to be people around. How easy? Is it going to be hard or easy for us to do this? And when we got there, I was just like, whoa, we're like smack out in the middle of nowhere when nobody's here. So I don't know, miles, I'd say.
See,
Nowhere
that's like
near us.
our area. You can hear cars like pass you or whatever, and then you never
Mhm.
see them again. It's like they vanish into the forest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was interesting because um, I thought it was just gonna be more like, people maybe walking by or hiking, or maybe you hear a car. Nobody. Yeah. So it was interesting, super quiet. The only thing we kept hearing over and over and over was we were obviously in like a flight pattern area, because you on the audio could hear planes going over us, and it was every so often you'd hear it. And I found it really weird that listening to the audio, it was almost like that this Bigfoot family knows that they can get away with more during that time, because it seemed like they'd get more active when the planes would go by, and you could hear them like scurry around, or walk around when the planes would go by, but you can still hear like the footprints were insanely loud. It was just like crunch, 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 crunch. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep, I know
yeah,
exactly what you mean there.
yep, yeah. And it was just like, you'd hear one over here, and then you'd hear them over there, and then you'd hear them back here behind the tent, or one would be standing right next to us and moving. But it was so strange because when we were laying in the tent, and the one that walked up to us, we never heard it coming. It made zero sound. We never heard a footstep. We never heard a breath. We never heard a grunt, a growl, like a whoop. I mean, nothing. Now, the one thing we did hear was a tree knock right before it slapped the strap on the tent. There was a really loud tree knock off to our left, and you can hear that as clear as day in the audio. So, if there's a way, like when you have time, you should listen to the audio with us. You're just going to be like, holy moly, this is crazy town. I mean, it's just more activity than even I expected. I never expected to listen to it and go like, there's a bug flying around. It's driving me crazy. Um, I I never in a million years thought, okay, we're gonna listen to this and it's just gonna be like, more than what we heard, because like I said, we heard it going on all night. But when you're listening to the audio, it's like 10 times more happening than what we thought. That's the craziest thing. It's just like nonstop from, I'd say, 11 o'clock to 6 a.m. Never stops. Not even for a minute. It
Did
doesn't
you
get quiet.
did you feel that maybe they were, lack of a better term, teasing you guys? Like teasing you with the noise, teasing you? Or do you think it was their curiosity where they're like, hey, let's check out these weird humans that are coming out? Like, what was the feeling of it?
Majority of it, I felt like they were more curious, because when it got as close as it did to us and it slapped the strap, that first moment right there was like, I think it wants us to get out. I think it wants to see
Like,
us. Like, I think
do
it
you
was
think
curious about us.
do you think that it like did it feel harmful? Did you feel in danger?
No, I didn't feel in danger. I felt in that moment I was like frozen, like that thing's like right there. Okay, like literally, like it's Bigfoot and a piece of flippin' material and us. That's what I was thinking, like, dear God, if this thing wants to harm us, it knows we're here. It already knows we're here.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
could harm you in a second. I mean, all it
well,
would have to do is take its strength to rip the tent open.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the funniest thing was, um, the tent itself is like a mesh top, okay? And that you can see everything, the sky and everything around you. And then there's a cover, okay, that you can put on, like, so if it's going to rain or you don't want to see. And Lee wanted to leave it open where you could see the sky. And if anything came in camp, we could see it.
Yeah.
And I was already like, I'm going to be laying in this um Bigfoot burrito and you want it to see me so it can eat me. Okay, no, I'm not down with that. So we're putting the cover over. A part of me is regretting that now because I'd almost rather know what it was
How do you
or
think
what it looked like.
how do you think you would have reacted if you saw it? Do you think you'd have been hysterical? Do you think you would have been calm? Have you thought
I
about that?
will, first of all, I know for a fact I would have laid there and not moved and I would have laid in silence. That's one thing I was taught very, very young is if it gets close, you don't run and you don't scream. You don't react badly. You don't react like you're afraid of it. You basically just stand your ground, or if, like, for instance, lay in your lay in your tent. But if I didn't have the cover and it did come up, I probably would have stared at it just so I could look at it and know if it's coming for me. I know it's coming for me, but my curiosity of what it looked like probably would have been more than my fear in the moment. But I guarantee you, I wouldn't have made a noise. I would have laid there in silence and probably just stared at it until it decided to walk away. Which is a weird thing because, again, we never heard it walk away. We never heard it come up. And another thing I mentioned on the first show too, what we thought was super weird was it didn't even have a smell. Nothing. None of them. That's what we thought was so bizarre.
See, that
You
doesn't
know?
surprise me. Any encounter I've ever had, never got the odor.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. It was strange. Yeah. So I've smelled the smell before. Now that smell can be from, honest to God, it can smell like the worst thing you can imagine. It can smell like death, BO, poop. I mean, sewage. I mean, I'm talking like the worst things you can imagine, all wrapped in one. Now, I've had that smell, skunk and all that, where it's like, ugh, what is that? Okay. And then you realize, oh, wait, hold on. I think I know what that is. And then you realize something's close. But this one, or multiple, which we could hear multiple, and you could hear them talking to each other. So we knew it was multiple. Um,
Could you tell
no
how
smell.
many?
Do what?
Could you tell how many?
We both kept talking about it, and it sounded to us at first like it might be somewhere between 4 and 6. But the weird thing is we could hear adult and juvenile. Like we're thinking maybe like younger, not, I wouldn't say infant, like toddler size, but like bigger, but like juvenile, like definitely
Right.
smaller because you could tell the tone of the voice. And we also found juvenile prints next to the giant Bigfoot print, so we knew they were there.
So you think probably worst case scenario, they were showing the juveniles what humans look like.
Well, I think they had a huge curiosity about us for some weird reason. I felt like they definitely brought them closer to us. I don't know if they could sense maybe that we were good people. I don't know if it was just our energy in general.
I think they totally can.
Oh, absolutely. But it's funny because Lee, he's so adorable when he talks to them because, I'm out there like whistling and I'm like, whoop, and I'm giving all these regular, Bigfoot calls and stuff. And he's out there like this. Hello. Hi. How are you? How was your day? You know what I mean?
That's the way I am. That's
And I'm
totally the way
like, that's adorable. I told him, I said, I absolutely love how you talk to them so sweetly and calmly.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And I think he might have kind of caught their attention because two times it answered back in Lee's voice. And one of them, I can't remember if it said, I think the first one was a whoop back and it was in Lee's voice answering back. And then the second one was a distant hello because he would go, hello. And just exactly like the way he would say it, it went, hello. And then you could hear it off in the distance answering him. And so that was a trip.
See, the weird thing is, and I know I'm going to sound like an idiot here when I say this, okay? But I'm going to say it anyways. I think wild animals can understand us. I really do. And I'll tell you why I believe that. So this is why I think what you're saying, that they were responding with a hello, I think they knew what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a deer in my backyard. A deer. So from my back door to my cherry tree is maybe 18 feet. Not very far. 18, 20 feet. Not very far. And the deer come in and they eat off the cherries off that tree. And the one night I was outside, it was after the show, and I'm outside and I didn't see her, but I
Oh,
heard something shaking on the tree and I turn and I look and there she is on her back legs, grabbing a cherry off the tree. And she got down, she saw me when she was on her back legs. She dropped down to all fours and started walking backwards into the darkness. And I said, "No, honey." I said, "You don't need to do that. Those cherries are for you. They're for you. You eat as many as you want. All right? They're all there for you." I said, "Don't worry about me. I'm just going to watch how beautiful you are." And I like, because we have this one deer. She's just gorgeous, right? And I
oh,
think she's been with us a long time.
oh.
And anyways, I kept talking to her like that. And the next thing she kind of looks at me, she perks up her ears and she looks at the cherry tree. She looks back at me and I said, "Yes, all yours. Eat as much as you want. Those are for you." She walked right up to the cherry tree, got back on her hind legs, was picking up the cherries, and came back down and kind of looked at me like a thank you, you know?
Oh,
And this is where
yeah.
I totally believe that a lot of these animals can
Hmm.
actually understand us. Now, she's probably not understanding the words. It's
Yeah.
romantic for me to think that she's understanding English, but she's probably picking up on the friendly
Yeah.
tone and the
Yeah.
energy that I'm putting out there.
Hmm.
But I think that a lot of these creatures can understand what we are doing. They may not
Hmm.
understand the language, but they understand that
Yeah. It's like Snow White. You're like Snow White.
I am Snow White. No, I am Pam.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like having a pet, like you talk to your pet gets used to the tone of your voice and the way we react to them and they know like if we're happy or sad or if we're mad or whatever's going on, they sense those things. So I definitely think that animals can definitely feel like if we're happy or we're inviting or our energy's good. And so, yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Crazy.
I don't think you're
It's
crazy at
crazy.
all. Like, I mean, listen, I grew up in the woods. I've been around a lot of animals, and there's a lot of times when things get close, and like I would talk to them or my dad would talk to them because you want to know you're okay and they're okay. And a lot of times you think like, oh, they're just going to run off, and sometimes they'll just sort of like stand there, look at you, and like nod their head, and it's kind of
Yep.
like a little dog. They just like they're taking it
Yep.
in, like you know like,
Yep.
oh yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I totally agree.
I've
Jackie,
seen that.
stick around for a minute, but we're going to end the show here. We're going to end the stream here tonight. I just
Okay.
want to chat with you for a minute or two.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. And Sandra, W. Decker, Area 53, Susan, and Michael for the super chats. Greatly appreciate it. Tomorrow night on the show, Science Bob and friends. Dr. Bob McGuire will be back, and we'll see you all then. Have a good one, everybody. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.